2, 3.
Hi, Mr. Goya.
So, what does the board feel? Should we let 3 representatives from Unit B speak and 1 representative from Unit A speak? Or should we ask the 3 requests from Unit B to elect 1 among themselves?
Good.
What's the pleasure of the board?
My opinion is that they all should speak. I don't want to hold anybody back from their First Amendment rights. I don't believe that we should allow anybody to be held back from their First Amendment rights. And I didn't like it when I was held back from my First Amendment rights.
So STA was also upset about not being able to speak in the meeting, so that's why they make that unfair labor practice, and so we came to an agreement on that. Anybody else want to
I just have to say something. Will this be setting precedent?
Huh?
Will this be setting precedent that they'll be speaking all the time? I just need that question to be answered
Actually,
first.
it is the chair's
Pleasure.
prerogative.
Okay.
So, but I just wanted to let you guys hear. How does the Unit A people or STA feel about this? Actually, the STA. It's okay.
Mr. Goya would like to speak. We're okay with that.
Well, what about the other 2 Unit B representatives?
I'm speaking on behalf of all of the Stoughton teachers today, so.
Okay. All right. So that's good. So I'm going to start with Mr. Gulia, and then we are going to do 3 minutes each. Madam Chairman, Vice Chair, would you keep time? 3
Yep.
minutes.
Hold on, I gotta put my glasses on. Now everyone knows.
Oh.
Tough when you get old.
Get ready. Go whenever you want.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is David Gulia, and tonight I'm representing the Unit B administrators in Stoughton. These 10 people include the 2 assistant principals at Stoughton High School, the 2 assistant principals at the O'Donnell Middle School, the athletic director, the assistant special education director, the data and behavior specialist at the West Elementary School, the director of nurses, and the 2 curriculum coordinator positions. Many of those people are behind me as we speak. Tonight I would like to speak to you about the 3 new Unit B positions that were approved as part of the school committee budget that have yet to be filled. The new curriculum coordinator positions at the elementary level and the high school dean of discipline. As a lifelong resident of Stoughton with 3 children in the Stoughton public school system, I know this district has outstanding teachers, school leaders, and supportive parents. As a town meeting member, I know this town has always supported education and funded education, and that has made me very proud as a resident and now as a former teacher and current school administrator. These 3 new positions will have a direct impact on the students in Stoughton. That is why they were approved. Over the past 3 years, many new initiatives have taken root in Massachusetts that have significantly impacted teachers, parents, students, and school leaders. The implementation of the Common Core standards and the new teacher evaluation system have had the most impact. This has changed how all educators do their jobs. Teachers need more support than ever with the new curriculum standards and the evaluation system. In fact, a survey was distributed to every teacher in the district, and feedback was received by the district-wide Teacher Evaluation Task Force, which included 9 teachers and 2 school administrators. Some common themes emerged from the survey. Elementary teachers feel underserved by the current 2 curriculum coordinators. Also, teachers across the entire district are asking for more time with their evaluators and more feedback from their evaluators. Teachers are asking for more support with curriculum initiatives, but there is less and less time to accomplish this based on the new state mandates. For example, 3 years ago, under the old evaluation system, teachers were observed twice every other year, which resulted in about 350 total observations for school administrators to conduct in Stoughton. This past year, approximately 1,500 observations were completed by school administrators in Stoughton. The 2 curriculum coordinators who are here tonight, they conducted over 140 observations each. 3 years ago, when their 2 positions were added to the budget, the STA negotiating team made it clear they felt the job descriptions were almost impossible for 2 people to complete. That is proving to be true. However, it's now understood that members of Unit B, members of Unit B, the opposite point is being made to the school committee. These new positions would have a direct impact on student learning. For example, at the elementary level, a pilot engineering program began last year. This new elementary STEM coordinator would oversee this program and begin to roll it out to every elementary school in town. The Next Generation Science Standards, by the way, another new initiative, are going to be implemented next year. Teachers need additional support and guidance with the new curriculum coordinators would provide them with this. Finally, I want to get to the high school dean of discipline. I respectfully ask for an extension. I need about another minute. I know I'm running close to 3 minutes.
Maybe we'll take it from one of your colleagues. Would that be acceptable to you?
It is. I just wanted to mention how
Which
important.
one should we take it out from?
No, just go.
Okay. I have another minute. I thank you for your
You
time.
can have my minute.
Thank you, Mr. Soares.
You're welcome.
At the high school level, the new Dean of Discipline would assist with many different areas that impact high school students: attendance, school safety, discipline, and academic performance, to name a few. Currently, the Dean of Discipline position is a .4 position. The other half is filled .6 teaching. Making this position a full-time Unit B assists in completing the administrative team. It goes beyond having another evaluator. Issues happen all the time during the day at the high school. Sometimes the dean will be in the middle of dealing with an issue, but the bell rings and they are supposed to be in class. Students could go unsupervised while the dean tries to make it to class, but not leave the other situation unmanaged. We respect the budget process. The current school budget, which includes the 3 new positions, was examined closely by the school committee, the finance committee, and approved by the members of town meeting. We support the new teaching positions added and the 3 administrative positions added. We believe all the positions are necessary for the system to continue to grow and improve. Furthermore, we oppose any efforts of anyone attempting to influence a budget that was already lawfully passed. We welcome the opportunity to speak more on this matter if asked by the school committee. I thank you for your time this evening and your efforts as school committee members on behalf of the students, teachers, parents, and administrators in Stoughton. Thank you for your time. I apologize for going over.
Okay, I have one question for you.
No questions. Because this is the public comment, we don't engage into debates or discussions. Next is Mr. Galligan. We can change it anytime you like.
Thank you very much, school committee, for inviting me to speak with you. I don't really have a whole lot that Mr. Gulia didn't say, although as part of my job, I keep my finger to the pulse of all of the educational trends that are going on around the state. And we have awesome teachers here in Stoughton and awesome administrators. And I think that these 2 positions, plus the Dean of Discipline, will help us to continue to grow and give us, as Mr. Gulia said, exactly what the teachers have asked for, and that's more support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Miss Janet Sullivan.
Good evening, and also thank you for allowing me to speak a few moments. I just want to say that I have given my entire professional working career to the Stoughton Public Schools, and I'm very proud of where we are in terms of our progress. Our students work hard, our teachers are diligent and hardworking and dedicated, as our administrators. I feel that we are we're a town that is on the verge of I don't want to just say it, greatness. Our kids are working hard, our teachers are working hard, our administrators are working hard, but everyone is asking for more help. Our teachers are asking the administrators for more help, and we're asking you for more help. We really respect the budget process. We believe that all the teaching positions are genuine and necessary, and all the administrative positions are genuine and necessary. And we would ask that you see the budget through as it was designed, and with the impact and the input that all people had in that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Miss Beverly Harris.
Good evening. My name is Beverly Harris, and I'm a grandmother of 2 children who go to the Stoughton Public Schools. And usually I watch the school committee meetings on TV, but tonight I really felt strongly about coming out to address the school committee. Recently, I had a concern, and I don't hold a title, no big position here in Stoughton, just a grandmother who is very interested in the education of her grandchildren. And I've been pleased with the education of my grandchildren here in Stoughton. And there was a concern that I had recently, and I brought that concern to Dr. Brown. We were at a social event, and I interrupted her social event, and she was kind. She allowed me to bend her ear, and she then, and I said, okay. Well, it was, she'll probably just forget all about it. And next thing I knew that she had brought my concerns forward to the superintendent. And I just today, I want to give a public shout out and thank you to Dr. Brown and to the superintendent Vizzi, as well as to the administrative principal at the Stoughton High School, Juliet Miller, who I have had the pleasure of speaking with. And those three individuals have brought my concerns forward and have resolved concerns that I had. And I just wanted to say thank you again for doing that. Sometimes I know you talk to people in authority, but I was just very pleased that as a grandmother, on behalf of my son and daughter-in-law, that you took my concerns seriously and you moved forward on it. So again, thank you. It was a great experience.
Thank you. Come back anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Next is Ms. Andrea Pires.
You're going to be positive to all positive stuff this evening.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? All right. If it's okay with you, Dr. Earl, I printed out my speech, so because I'm getting into school mode and I have bullet points, so it just helps to look at it. Yeah.
We know about the time to go back to work, don't we?
So my name's Andrea Pires. I'm the STA president, and I am speaking tonight on behalf of the entire Stoughton Teachers Association. And the STA as a whole is opposed to the funding of the Unit B positions, the 3 new Unit B positions, for the following reasons. One, the budget shortfall needs to be addressed. According to the budget analysis provided by the superintendent and the school business manager in June 2014, there is a budget shortfall for the fiscal year 2015 of at least $172,000. So the school committee, we feel, must be fiscally responsible, and if there is a budget shortfall, this is not the time to be creating new administrative positions. Secondly, the new positions are, if they're added, they should be positions that provide direct services to students. Unit B is a bargaining unit of administrators. In 2011, there were 6 Unit B positions, and if these 3 positions are funded, there will be 13 Unit B positions. That means the number of Unit B administrators would be more than double in the last 3 years. We feel that if new positions are added, they would be better used to give direct services to students. We feel that the positions are duplicative. Beginning in FY 2011, each elementary principal was given $4,000 annual stipend to be responsible for specific subjects in the elementary curriculum. And also, beginning in fiscal year 2012, the assistant superintendent position was reclassified as deputy superintendent to include curriculum. And as a result, his salary was increased from $117,000 in FY12 to $128,000 in FY13, and that's a 9.4% increase in 1 year. And in FY13, 2 new Unit B positions were created, the pre-K through 12 curriculum coordinators for STEMs and humanities, and these combined together was a cost of over $200,000. Next, the Dean of Discipline currently exists already as a 182-day Unit A position, and there's no need to make it 240 days. The Dean of Discipline has a reduced teaching load, and if the Stoughton Public Schools needs more time for the Dean of Discipline, the STA would be agreeable to reducing the teacher load further, but we don't feel that they need to be working more throughout the school year. And then finally, the administration's case for the need for more evaluators is overstated. The overwhelming majority of educators in Stoughton are on a 2-year evaluation cycle. The contract requires that there will be 4 unannounced observations of 5-minute durations, each over a 2-year cycle. So this is not a huge requirement, and it is, in fact, less time than what was required in our past evaluation procedures. Prior to this new evaluation system, teachers were observed twice for 40 minutes each time in a 2-year cycle. And in closing, in light of the budget shortfall and all the other reasons stated above, the STA respectfully requests that the school committee vote to not fund the Unit B positions. However, if the school committee chooses to move forward with these positions, it is our wish to see the positions as 180-day positions and part of Unit A, therefore cutting the costs. And that's it. So I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Next public comment speaker is Ms. McNeil.
Good evening, everybody. As usual, I'm speaking about special education. I may have a little bit of a disjointed kind of items today, but they're all regarding special education. I've been a little concerned. I've heard from a few people that 3 special education teachers at the high school have left, and that really concerns me. I wonder how many paraprofessionals as well, and throughout the system. Especially concerns me because we've kind of changed, or we should have been changing from the Pathways classes to a more inclusive classroom setup. I'm hoping that's happening. I haven't looked at the classrooms yet, but I mean what they've done. But what they're doing with the former Pathway students and how they are accommodating the classrooms is really important. And losing 3 teachers that have been on staff is concerning. Again, I don't know how many paraprofessionals may have left, and they may have replaced the teachers, but at the same time, 3 leaving is pretty significant at the end of the school year. I also have real concerns about ESY, which is extended school year for special education students. Last year, most of the parents were not notified in any kind of timely manner. That's been the case in past years as well. But this year we had parents not being notified until 2 weeks before the classes were to start or the end of school. I understand that they don't always know who's going to be in there. However, there's a pretty good history of knowing how many teachers you're going to need, what kind of classes you're going to need through the ESY. It shouldn't be last minute. These parents need to be able to make plans for their summer, and wondering what's going to happen with their children shouldn't be one of them. They should know far ahead of time. The other part, and I haven't done put in a complaint as of yet, with OCR, which is the Office of Civil Rights, or with PQA regarding the special education students being separated from regular education students up at the Daw School. I was hoping that it didn't happen. I still will check to see what happened with it, but the last thing I knew that they were being, because of air conditioning, which was well known prior to the end of school year, they are not to be separated from general education students. They are to be part of the regular education, be able to be included and be in an inclusive place, not be separate. That is a clear violation of the law, and I hope to see it addressed. I will still file the complaint if it's not addressed, and it should be looked at right now, not in June. I mean, we know the kids are going to be there in the ESY service. We know they're going to have the extended year. So why do we have to wait until June to say, oh, we didn't know where we were going to put these kids? This needs to be done and planned. The other thing, because you're going to be talking about MCAS tonight at some point, I would really like, I'm not sure if the data is collected on it, but how many non-standard accommodations are used within the district by grade level. I think it would see if there's a trend on either of them going up or down. I think it's a very important number to know, especially if the non-standard accommodations go up around 10th grade, when it's a very important year for students. So having that data would be really good in kind of knowing how we're kind of managing our kids with non-standard accommodations. I did email, there's on the DOE website, there's the test administrator's website, PDF for the Juliet Mill for the principals, and it's in Appendix C, Section 8, which really speaks to what they're supposed to be in order to have a non-standard accommodation. It's very specific criteria. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'm going
that's
to,
Dr. Chair to you.
I'm going to
Ooh, no negative
invoke
this year.
my right, which I rarely
No,
do,
please
to
do.
respond, because this is another appearance by Mrs. McNeil, and I had prepared a response to her various other appearances, so I'm just going to read this. I'd like to take a moment to set the record straight and respond to some of the inaccurate, accusatory, and highly misleading and damaging statements made by Ms. Pat McNeil in the public comments section of this meeting. While advocacy is a good thing, the disparaging with misleading and untrue statements is not. Mrs. McNeil does not speak for CPAC, the Special Ed Board, as she has specifically said herself, nor does she speak for the 700 families that the Special Ed Department serves. The vast majority of those are happy with the services their children receive here. Our recent parent survey indicated that the overwhelming amount of parents who interact with the Special Ed Department are very happy with their experiences. And just in case it became necessary, I have brought a copy of that survey for you to see. The vast majority who are satisfied do not come to speak at this meeting, but no one should presume to speak for them, giving a very erroneous impression of the work of the Special Education Department. Recently, Ms. McNeil has come to several meetings asking, and she mentioned it tonight, for summer programs to be moved from the DAW to the West, and the fact is that the program was moved to the West in FY13 to consolidate some services and then relocated back to the DAW this past year due to the fact that an overwhelming number of the parents of the children who actually attend the program asked that the program be moved back to the DAW. And part of the reason was because there's an air-conditioned wing that's specifically intended to support special education summer services. Further, the statement that children who should be included are not included is patently false. Everyone who has inclusion in their IEP for any services receives it. As to the fundraiser that Ms. McNeil has mentioned for special education that was generally organized by Mr. Fernandez in June, we want to thank him for his efforts. The reality is that school staff are not permitted to fundraise on school time for outside organizations, and no administrator can ask staff members to raise money on their own for such outside organizations. The school committee and the school community were made aware of the fundraiser using all of the ways that are appropriate, and the school committee was particularly made aware of the date at their own meeting when the fee waiver was asked for and it was granted. Mr. Fernandez specifically told this body that he was going to take care of everything, including providing all of his own advertising. When Ms. McNeil said that the principal did not send out emails and announcements, she misspoke. The principal sent out an email, used her blog and her website to promote the event. She was deeply offended that Mrs. McNeil accused her at a public meeting of not supporting her special education students when no evidence of this exists. It was inaccurate and it was inappropriate. And anyone who's attended the SHS graduation in the last 3 years will have been struck by the support that our special education students receive from their peers and their teachers when they walk across that stage. That is a culture that starts at the top. Mrs. McNeil said a number of things that are simply not true. Specifically, Ms. McNeil has stated, the community relations specialist makes $60,000 a year. This statement is not true. The position pays half of the money that she said. Mrs. McNeil made a statement that special education programs are not being evaluated. This statement is not true. There's a systematic evaluation process for all programs which is ongoing and inclusive. Each year, several programs undergo a complete evaluation based on that process, and changes are made. In fact, 6 programs have been comprehensively evaluated over the last 3 years, and all programs are in an evaluation cycle that is consistent with best practice. Ms. McNeil has stated that the high school does not provide transition planning to high school students. This statement is not true. The high school has a comprehensive transition program for all students with disabilities, which includes numerous meetings, a highly structured schedule of transition activities and reminders, and assistance with choosing post-secondary schools, and that includes a vast amount of information about the colleges with outstanding services for our learning disabled students. Stoughton has received excellent coordinated program reviews during Mrs. Tucker's tenure. She does not deserve to have her department denigrated repeatedly at public comment, nor her professional competence questioned. Stoughton has a long history of supporting its students with disabilities. For generations before it was common practice across the state or the nation, the district made extraordinary efforts to create programs to keep our students here whenever possible, rather than send them away to out-of-district schools. That is a proud tradition, and it is continued today. To malign the staff and the administration when in fact the evidence of poor service and dereliction simply does not exist is not a proper use of this public comment period. The special education service currently takes up 25% of our entire school district budget, and that's over and above the regular education services that most of our special education students also access. The budget this year, and we all know that money is tight and we have to make very difficult decisions, it included 8.4 new positions to serve special education needs, far more than any other area. As in all aspects of education, additions and improvements must be prioritized and phased in over time. Special education has never been ignored in this process, and it never will be. Even though we strive to satisfy the needs of all families, there will always be a few families that are in disagreement with the department over services. In this district, those are very few. Mrs. Tucker has been to a BSEA, that's Board of Special Education Appeals,
Thank you.
hearing only once in her entire tenure. And it would be incorrect to believe that Ms. McNeil speaks for the vast majority of parents who believe their students have been well served. The policy on public comment states, rumors presented as facts are prohibited. I asked the school committee to limit the statements by members of the public that are defamatory and accusatory of administrative staff at this meeting. Thank you.
Just in fairness, Ms. McNeil asked a question. I mean, she has been coming here asking questions, and the questions may be going unanswered. Were there three, did we lose 3 special education teachers, as she claims?
There have been teachers who have left the high school over the summer for reasons that are individual and specific to each of them, and all of them have been replaced. There will not be a drop in staff in any positions that we have had teachers in.
It would have been more appropriate just to answer her questions rather than saying, you know, you've been making comments here for the past year, and you know, just picking points out of it. And also, I like this survey that has been done, but I like to see more, you know, information about it. Namely, how many people returned the survey. So what I'm going to do is ask Ms. McNeil to provide a list of her unanswered questions. And then we'll have the superintendent or the special education department or whoever is responsible to answer them in writing. And then you know, we'll look at it. If necessary, we'll set up a meeting. We'll put her on the agenda because I think she's trying to work for the best of the students. And maybe sometimes she's frustrated that she's not getting the information or the attention that she needs. So we don't want to turn off anybody, and we don't want to make you know, broad statements saying that you know, this person is not telling the truth. So it's just a matter of, again, improving the communication. And so that's why I'm asking Ms. McNeil to come up with a list of unanswered questions.
I don't want to respond to the whole list, but I just want to make a clarification about the.
Yeah, just one minute.
Summer program?
1 minute, yes. Yeah, come to the microphone, please.
I'm not going to make a comment about the whole list
No,
at the moment. I just want to.
I won't let
You're
you.
right. I just want to comment on the summer program. One of the reasons why I brought it up is understanding that the parents, at the end of the year, it was a quick move over to the DAW, or that's what I was told. However, one of the reasons why I brought it up now and didn't do an OCR complaint or PQA complaint was understanding that there wasn't any other space for them at that time, and that they knew ahead of time that this was an issue. And now, the beginning of this year, we know that it's a problem, that we need to start looking for a space now that it can accommodate the kids that aren't in a separate building from other kids. That's why if we look at it now and not wait until June, we may be able to find a better solution than them being in another school by themselves. And if I wasn't clear on that, I apologize. But that was why I haven't done any of the complaints on that particular issue, because I knew there was extenuating circumstances. And if you start now in September looking for a different way to accommodate the students, that we may be able to not have them in a separate building. It also, parents want the kids to be in the air conditioning, and we totally understand that, and we all do. But we need to look at what do we have so that they can change it now and not have them go to a separate building. So that was the only thing I wanted to comment on that.
I stand entirely by my statement.
Okay. Next, we have, I can't read this writing, but could that be you, Caroline?
Yes.
Okay.
We're jumping to topics, from topic to topic.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
And my name is Carolyn Sampson. I am the Assistant Special Ed Director and the Outer District Coordinator, and a proud member of the Stoughton community, having grown up in Stoughton. And I'm going into my 20th year in the field of education, having been in various positions, starting as a teacher through the Stoughton Public Schools to where I am, and I'll be going into my 4th year in this position. My colleagues have spoken and covered most of the information, but there's a few things I just wanted to add.
Caroline, did you want to speak about the Unit B positions? Because here you put
The
down
Unit
as-
B.
Yeah, we already.
And I'm sorry, the contract.
A contract?
What
The contract.
Contract.
Our
'Cause here
the
you put
unit-
as a subject special ed district. So if
that's-
you want to speak
that's my
about
mistake.
the special education department, please do so. Otherwise, I mean, we talked out the Unit B.
Right, I don't want to talk about the Unit B. I'm just bringing some
you wanna
points.
talk about?
I miss
What do you want to talk about
our contract language.
for Unit B contract language?
Unit B contract
Okay, go ahead.
language. And I'm just going to bring forth 3 points. One of them has to do with the evaluation cycle, and I'm going to take it exactly the way that it's written in here, and this is from our evaluations. The evaluator shall have at least 4 unannounced observations during the school year. And then the other point, an educator whose overall rating is proficient or exemplary must have at least 4 unannounced observations during the school year. At the written request of the educator, the observer shall vary the time of the day and day of the week of the unannounced observations. And then the third point to bring from our Unit B contract, under Article 25, Section 6. Prior to agreeing upon a proposal with any other school department bargaining unit that substantially impacts upon the workload of Unit B, the committee will consult with Unit B. The foregoing shall not limit the committee's obligation under General Law, Chapter 150E.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next one is Mr. Dick Fitzgerald.
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief. I come before you this evening because I want to make a couple of points.
A little bit, sweetheart. You just speak up a little bit.
Okay.
Come closer, so I can hear.
All right. Is that better? Okay. I just want to bring a couple of points forward. There was, and for the people that are here and the viewing audience at home, that at the present time, the School Facilities Master Plan Committee has undertaken 5 major projects which were approved at town meeting for the repairs to your buildings. They are the Hanson, the West, the Daw. They are in the process of being completed. There is paperwork to make sure that we get this into the MSBA that needs to be signed. Hopefully it's signed, forwarded on to our Chief Procurement Officer, who is our town manager, Mr. Hartman. He's the final signature. He can sign that, get that in, and we can get our monies back from the MSBA on this accelerated repair program. There are 2 other buildings, 2 other projects that will be coming up. Those are for the Gibbons School. I'll stand corrected if anybody has to add to that. But I want everybody to know that it's not a situation that these buildings are not being repaired. These buildings are being repaired, contrary to some comments that are saying that they're not. They are being repaired. The work is ongoing. And we do need to have this information sent into the MSBA so we can indeed get our reimbursement back. We will be meeting next week on the Gibbons project, but to bring you up to date and to make sure everything's ongoing. If there's any questions, hopefully the paperwork that needs to be signed is in. If there's anything contrary to that, everybody has my cell number. Please give me a call. I'd like to know one way or the other. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Peter Ventresco. That's the last public comment request, so we honored everybody.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to address the Hanson School. I heard they're digging PCBs around the building. Is that true?
When they were doing the testing for the windows, they did find some PCBs, and they have been mitigated, or Mr. Harding will be able to speak to it when he comes up to talk about the bids. So if there needs to be any removal of PCBs, it will be or has been done in a way that doesn't impact any of the students or the activities going on in the building. And there are several wings in the Hanson School, and there was a small section of the building where PCBs were found, but in other parts of the building we did not find them.
Well, I noticed they were digging along the sides of the building, so the contamination's into the soil.
There's a certain portion of the building where there's a possibility when PCBs are in the, I think it's in the caulking, that there might be contamination in the soil, and so there are processes to get rid of that. But the preparation of the entire building for the new windows does not involve the whole building having PCBs.
Well, you assume. I mean, anybody test the soil for the contaminants?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So what was the readings? Were they above the safe level or below it? Or?
Well, as I said, Mr. Harding is here, and this is a public comment. This is not a question and answer session. So if you want to, I mean, if Mr. Harding can address it because he's going to be coming up and talking about
We'll
bids.
ask him those questions, and I'll let you speak if he doesn't answer.
But
all right. I would like to know, okay, so DEP has to be involved, I hope.
Do they? Yep.
He's saying yes, yeah.
All right, so there's a paper trail where this material is being trucked to, because that's by law.
There's a prescribed process, and it can certainly be described to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Joel. So you'll have to say
We
it
can
again.
hear you, but yeah.
We can hear you. The viewing audience cannot hear you.
All right, so...
So you're saying there are 2 facilities in New York to which they can be shipped, no others, and it's being taken care of in that way.
Correct. All right, so you're saying all this contaminants, the PCBs, come out of the caulking around the windows?
That's where they originated from, is the caulking around the windows in a certain section of the building.
Well, isn't there some kind of a repercussion to go against the manufacturer for the cost of all this?
Well, this was a long time ago, and so I don't think that there is. But the engineers among us can speak better to that. I don't think that there is any valid claim that can be made. PCBs were used in a lot of materials, and a lot of buildings find them. We've actually had less of that than some places find.
Well, I know a lot of contaminants, the companies that made them, like RC Grace, they're responsible for a lot of that stuff that was in the ground and groundwater for 40 years after it was originally put into the soil. So and same with Johns Manville's with their asbestos. So there might be some kind of a case out there that might cover this, so I suggest maybe.
Mr. Ventresco, can
You know
I
what?
just interrupt you?
Yeah.
And ask you to stick around when Mr. Hardings comes to the podium for his portion of the agenda. I'll give him an opportunity to speak to it, and if you have any unanswered questions, then at that time I'll let you speak.
All right.
Is that good enough?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, wait a minute. How long is this going to be before Mr. Hardy gets up here? I got to go home and eat supper yet.
It's not very long.
Yeah, have you been watching the meetings lately?
You have a lunchbox back there?
Okay. Our next item is, yes?
I'm sorry. Can I make one clarification point?
Okay. Just 1 minute.
Gave that girl look. You gave the girl look. Like, you did that cute little face. Yeah, I saw it.
Hi, Melanie Ingrayo. So I am the negotiation chair for the STA, and I just wanted to make one clarification point. I think it's important when you go to executive session to understand. Our administrative team spent thousands of hours this year working with this new evaluation system. It is unbelievably tedious. It's a lot. It's overwhelming, and our teachers spent a lot of time too, navigating our way through it. The language that Ms. Sampson was referring to, she called it the contract language. She's talking about the educator evaluation caseload language that was negotiated by the STA negotiating team. There is a misprint, and it's actually important that it came up and we caught it. And I went back to my notes from 2 years ago when we negotiated this to make sure. If you go through that caseload language, and I'm sure the Deputy Superintendent or Dr. Rizzi could provide that for you in executive session, when you look at it, it says that teachers who have professional status and who are exemplary or proficient will be evaluated 4 times per school year. It says that. It's wrong. It should say per cycle. And if you look at the chart, there is a chart in the back of that caseload language, and the chart says the contrary. It says 4 times per cycle. And that was the understanding at the table. And I went back through my notes, and the whole team did, and we looked at it to make sure that we weren't wrong. We had said you have to be observed, unannounced observations 4 times per cycle. And so we looked at the language, and I can see the language floating around, and I'm sure you can access it pretty easily. It absolutely is 4 times, that's what we agreed to, 4 times per cycle. And the vast majority of our teachers are either exemplary or proficient. And so the rollout process for this new evaluation system was messy, and the way it ends up working out was that the entire district had to be evaluated this year, the entire district. But that won't be true going forward. Next year, with most of our teachers being proficient, then, or exemplary, they will not, it's not as if the entire 350 teachers, 51 teachers that we have are going to need to be evaluated and observed 4 times. So I just wanted to clarify that, and if you have questions about that, we're happy to email anything that you need, our notes or whatever you need.
Mr. Soares had a clarifying question.
Apparently a cycle is going through the whole 351 teachers. Is that what you mean?
No, I'm sorry. A cycle is 2 years, a 2-year cycle.
2 years.
Yep,
Okay,
so over the
thank you.
course, if I'm a proficient teacher, then over the course of the next 2 years, I need to be observed, unannounced, a minimum of 4 times. You can observe me as many times as you want, but a minimum of 4 times, and it's a minimum of 5 minutes. A minimum of 5 minutes, and a minimum of 4 times. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment. I think the emphasis of the comments was that these positions have been approved by the budget process, and therefore it should be filled. Personally, I don't know about my colleagues, but personally, I totally disagree with that, because school committee makes a decision based on the information that is available to them. If later on a new piece of information or other additional information becomes available, it would be irresponsible for the school committee to go with the original decision or original budget. So that's why we are here, to make the budget decisions. Again, that's totally up to all the board members to think any way they want. And so with that, we'll move on to item number 2, which is pet responsibility on school grounds, which is the pet project of our Madam Vice Chair, so to speak.
We're going to ask Karen,
Powers.
Miss Karen Powers to come up and speak.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Karen Powers. I'm a resident of Stoughton and a mother of 2 children at the Hanson School. I would like to have no dogs allowed on school grounds due to safety and health issues. So specifically, I'm sorry I only made 5 copies of these, but hopefully we can all play nice and share.
Yeah.
So I have 3 sheets of people who have signed on with me that would also like to see this happen, and I would assume more people would also want to take this into practice. So if you would take a look at the ASPCA website that I printed out, I only printed out the first page, but on it, it says in the part that's kind of squared, 800,000 individuals each year are bitten by dogs. 800,000, and half of those are children, specifically children between the ages of 5 and 9. So those are a lot of our elementary school children that have that potential for being bitten by dogs that are on our school grounds, and maybe not even necessarily during school hours, but even after school hours, where a lot of people are walking their dogs after work, and also where people are having play dates on our school grounds or having sports-related activities on our school grounds. I know that at the Hanson School, we have lacrosse that's conducted there. We have cheerleading, football. There's probably some others that I haven't mentioned, but that are conducted as well. So schools specifically are made for children, not so much for dogs. There are places for people to take their dogs. Sharon has a big dog park, and so does Randolph. We have Bird Street Conservation Area and Borderland State Park. There are lots of places for people, your own yard, to take dogs, not necessarily places where children can be hurt. Some children have allergies, so they have problems when people are taking dogs onto school grounds. Health-wise, dog waste and dog feces present a particular health concern. And so if I could also take you to a website that I found, and if you would look on there, just on page 1, one of the first things it says is dog waste has been declared a pollutant by the EPA back in 1991, 13 years ago. They said it is a pollutant by the Environmental Protection Agency. 23 million fecal coliform bacteria, it's in this part here, is in 1 little gram of dog droppings. Dog droppings.
You get out of that very well.
And so they did put kind of something to give you an idea where the EPA is estimating that if you have 2 to 3 days worth of dog droppings with 100 dogs, so that's like, between 200 and 300 droppings or 250 droppings, that it's nasty. It would actually close an entire bay due to pollutants, plus 20 miles of watershed. 20 miles. Now, if we think about how long our children have been on summer vacation, 10 weeks, if only 3 people didn't pick up their dog feces, that's 240 droppings. It closes a bay and 20 miles of watershed surrounding that bay. And this isn't a small problem. Now, I'm sorry, I hope none of you have had dinner. This is what I find at the Hanson School, and I pick it up. You know, the very next day, in almost the same exact spot, is what I picked up again. As our gym teacher, Mr. Carty, was walking by, about to get ready to get the children set up for outdoor gym. When I asked him how common that was, he said very, and he finds it out there all the time. So I'm sorry, Mr. Carty, if I'm quoting you. But I don't even need his response because I know it's out there and I see people out there. And I see actually my own eyes of people allowing their dogs on their phones to do it and not pick it up. And I know the majority of Stoughton people are very responsible. Unfortunately, there really are 2 to 3 per day that actually do it. And I've seen it during cheerleading. I've seen the children, the girls step in it, and then they do something called a leg lift. Yeah, where they and then they stand on each other's knees, and it's a concern. It's a real concern. It's a health concern. To all of them, to all of them. And I just recently got a letter from our principal that said that all the children, all 300 some odd children in my school, my 2 children included, will be going out to recess before lunch. And I'm quite certain that all 300 will not be marched into the bathroom to have their hands washed. I'll be surprised if even half of them use hand sanitizer after they're done with recess. And this is what they find at recess. And if you actually look at them, you can see it's right by the picnic area. You know, we have kindergarten picnic where the families get together and they put a blanket outside on the ground, and parents and family get to come in and have a picnic on our grounds.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's a concern, and so I'm a dog lover, and I really, you know, I don't want anyone to think that I'm not a dog lover, but I do love my children and I do want them to be safe. 15 dogs died in Lowell of parvo. That's transmitted through dog feces and dog vomit. 15 dogs died of that. Now, that can't be transmitted. Parvo cannot be transmitted to humans. But if you look at this website again, it names all of these that can actually, and I'm not going to gross anyone out by them, but there's a long list of diseases that can cause things like kidney failure and serious digestional problems with our children on there. So I strongly ask that the committee seriously consider banning dogs. Just so that you know, they're not allowed on the soccer fields, and they're not allowed on the baseball fields either. I believe they're also not allowed on the football field. That's different from the Hanson School. The football field is a little bit further into the center of town. There are also Abington schools have banned dogs. Most of your regional technical schools have banned dogs from school grounds. Mansfield, all schools, school-wide, and Brockton, district-wide, has banned dogs on school grounds, not just during school hours, at all times. So I thank you all very much, and
Why don't
I
you
appreciate it.
stay here, and then we'll open it to discussion.
Oh,
because
sure.
Yours is not public comment, you're on the agenda.
Okay.
So I'll open it to discussion.
Karen Powers, first of all, I thought you did a very excellent job in explaining the problem. I thought that we had a leash law in Stoughton, and I assume that I'm not wrong in stating that people are walking their dogs. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
And so the people are not picking them up.
Correct.
I have no problem, me personally, I'm only one of the board, no problem to having a sign put up and to state that dogs should not be here. Now, the other thing that we can do is we can call up the dog officer
Yeah.
and have them take the dog. But I think what needs to happen, first of all, is that we should somehow, through some media, whether it be the school media or whatever, to send something home to the parents who have dogs, and that means everybody, and to tell them that no dogs are now allowed on the school property. So I agree with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yep, Mrs. Saini.
I appreciate the efforts, and I certainly, I'm share your concerns, and having
from two ends. One is having, when my children were in elementary school, people who'd bring their large dogs at dismissal time. And not every child is comfortable around dogs, even if they're on a leash. So
Not all dogs are comfortable with children. And you
exactly.
don't always know.
But also somebody who uses the track and field, and there are times that people run their dogs without leash, and that's a concern of mine when I'm out there alone as well. But I do want to make sure that whatever we do is consistent with town policy, and I think that it would probably be in our best interest to first consult with the selectmen and see what the particular ordinances are for public property, and then move forward at crafting a policy before we get into the particulars of it.
Absolutely. I did consult with the selectmen earlier this year, and also with the town hall, which there isn't any town ordinance on this at all. There are state ordinance,
Sure.
leash laws,
Okay.
but no town ordinance.
Okay. But like I said, whatever policy we craft, I think needs to be consistent with the law.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
But I do want to ask, I understood that the school committee actually has the authority to ban dogs from the schools, maybe not from a townwide, or maybe not even to create a fine. But I believe that's falls under school committee. I may be wrong.
We have a policy already. You just have to read your policy on service animals and animals in classrooms, and by assumption, there are no animals unless they're either service animals or there's a specific process that is gone through in order for them to be on school property. So there's a policy to look at. If anything, if you decide you want to do anything with it, but you should read it first because it's very specific as to no pets.
Inside the schools. I'm talking about outside the schools.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
By definition.
School grounds, either way.
It is inclusive of all school property.
School property. Okay.
That's the assumption. So it'll be up to them if they want to have a committee look at it, a subcommittee or something. But it would be appropriate under this current policy, I believe, to say that with particular exceptions, and those are related to civil rights law and the ADA, you have to go through a process in order to have a dog on school property, not the other way around.
Okay.
One other question.
Anybody else? Yeah.
You showed us a picture that had signs on it that said no dogs on the. Now I'm assuming,
That's
was
the
that
soccer
another
field.
school or was that our school?
No, that's a soccer field. That's the Coles Field on West Street.
Does,
I
and the,
believe that the Gibbons have a sign outside their playground that says no dogs allowed.
I don't know. They might. In calling other towns, some schools have, maybe some principals have designated it on their own. My school, the school that my children go to, is not. They have no policy, except maybe what's written that you spoke of.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I agree with you. We do need to look at the policy and see where we're going with that, and I guess we can get back with you on it.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Talking to deaf ears, we heard you. We have kids also.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you. Thank you for all your efforts, too.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you helping me through.
Our next item is Jones School nurse appointment.
Hi. Good, how are you?
Hi.
Oh, that's okay. My name is Christina Tiberio, and I'm a registered nurse, and I have applied for the position as the school nurse at the Jones School.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Any questions, comments from the board?
first of all, I know the young lady.
Yes, met a couple times.
We did meet a couple of times.
We spoke about triage and the importance of that in the schools.
Yes. And she's a very, very nice lady.
Thank you.
Just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Okay. I had a comment. The Jones School, the school nurse appointment is a school committee appointment, and we have recently come up with a hiring policy, and we use that as a pilot to to evaluate the policy. So I have some serious concerns and comments about that. But now maybe I'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting so we can discuss this issue along with the hiring policy. I will put it on the agenda for the next meeting for that. Now, this is a school committee appointment. Now we are going to take a vote. So I need a motion to appoint Jones School, Miss Christina, for the position of Jones School nurse. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion?
May I ask?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Okay.
But what is the superintendent's recommendation?
Well, the process for getting to this point was written by the committee and followed to the letter. And part of my role in the process was to interview Christina after the committee had selected her. So based on the entire process and what I have learned about her, I would certainly recommend that you appoint her as the Jones School nurse.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, discussion?
You said you're going to discuss it next week?
Not at the next school committee meeting. We'll review the process as outlined in the policy and also what took place. So we'll do that at the next meeting.
A comment that I would like to reserve for after the vote, because I don't think it's pertinent to the vote, but it goes along the concerns about what you're discussing now. So
okay.
I'm just asking.
So I guess I call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm going to abstain.
May I?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Thank you.
May I? I would like to address my comment, Dr. Earle, to you as a chair, because I believe that this process, that we had a process in place, and I know that you're going to bring up the discussion of the process but at the next meeting, but there are a couple things here for which I think we owe this young woman an apology, partly being notified 5 hours before the last meeting that it was being pulled from the agenda. Put us in the position of approving her tonight and starting the school year without a nurse, because she now needs to go give notice at her current employer. And this was a position that was basically completed in June. Here we are right before school starts. And she also, in case you didn't know, gave up her vacation to be here tonight. I think that's just a huge imposition on a person because of our own inability to deal with our policy. So I personally am sorry for the process that happened to you, but I think that that's, I wanted that to be publicly said. We can discuss, like I said.
We'll debate it at the next meeting.
Can I just address that? She should not have gone through that, Joyce, but again, the chair asked for something that should have been given to him. He didn't get it.
I'm sorry, that we had a process and that wasn't part of the process, and we can discuss that next week.
He's voting on a school nurse. I don't see why he can't have information.
And I don't know the specifics of that, but that wasn't part of what the process.
You will know in detail at the next meeting. Thank you so much. By the way, I'm also on my vacation.
Available.
Family
He's
camping.
right now.
I'm camping right now. And my kids are at home because I'm here.
It's always two ways.
That's right.
Good year.
Next one is acceptance of bids. I invite Mr. Joel Harding.
Dun, dun, dun.
You made it up here.
Thanks for coming, ladies.
I am.
Please proceed, Mr. Harding.
First bid we have is crack ceilings, seal coating, and restriping of our parking lots, driveways, and playgrounds. This is an annual bid that we do annually, and it is budgeted under the contract maintenance line of my budget. And we are recommending the low bid of East Coast Seal Coating Incorporated at $22,450.
What is the superintendent's recommendation?
I recommend that we accept the low bid because it is the low bid, and unless there's some outstanding reason, there are only a few under the law, that we go past the low bid to look at other bids, which is not the case. In this case, I recommend that you accept this bid from East Coast at $22,450.
Thank you. Mr. Soares.
Mr. Harding, we don't do this every year. Crack sealing, seal coating, and restriping? Do we do this every year?
That's what I just said, yes. It's an annual bid.
No.
He does it once a year.
Once a year, every 12 months.
Every 12 months, and you seal coat too?
Yes.
The same thing or different
No,
areas?
different areas. Different areas.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not the same area.
No. We do different parking lots depending on their condition.
I see.
Last year we sealed the seal coated the door. This year it's the Gibbon.
Okay. Because, I mean, the only reason why I said it was because I get mine done probably once every 4, 5, or 6 years.
I'm not so sure our parking lots are the same as your driveway.
No, I'm sure your parking lots have more use than mine do, and I agree with that.
Probably.
Thank you.
So why don't we make a motion and second it if there are any questions?
I move the superintendent's recommendation.
I second it.
Okay, now any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you. The second bid we have before you is for repainting of the O'Donnell Middle School gym. The O'Donnell Middle School gym painting project is a project that was brought forward by the principal of the middle school, Mr. Colantonio, under his extraordinary maintenance requests. And our recommendation is to accept the low bid of King Painting in the amount of $10,900.
What is the superintendent's recommendation?
For the same reason as stated for the last bid, this is the low bid. We have every reason to believe that the company can do the job, so it's my recommendation that we accept the low bid of King Painting in the amount of $10,900. Move
Any
the
motion?
superintendent.
So there is a motion. Is there a second? Okay, now discussion.
Sir. I forgot what my question was. Excuse me. Excuse me. I forgot what my question was.
Maybe if there is
I can't help
another...
No, you can't. Oh, I'm sorry. I remember my question. The bids that you got for this, what were they?
I believe you got
They're in here.
part of your packet.
Oh, it's already there. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other discussion, questions?
When will the work be done?
Probably evenings, weekends, holidays, vacation periods,
Okay.
in the middle of gym classes.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Now, would you like to speak on the PCB issues?
Yes, does anybody know what PCB stands for?
I looked it up.
Poly something.
It's
Polychlorinated
polychlorinated.
biphenyls.
Wow.
Polychlorinated biphenyls are in all of our buildings
Yeah.
at some point in
Isn't
time.
that in the floor tiles in our, ceiling tiles in our homes?
It can be. It can be.
He was added to caulk as a flexibility extender to
Yes,
keep it from becoming
it was
brittle
found
back
that
in the 60s.
it extended the flexibility. It did not allow the caulk to dry out. One of the main uses for PCBs is in electrical transformers. It's extremely well used as extremely well as an insulator. Does not overheat. Will not burn. It's a man-made chemical. Many companies made it. GE for years made it by the millions of gallons. It has many names: Asquarol, Intertene, found in many things throughout the years. When we first started the project at the Hanson School, the window project, the first thing we did was test for hazardous materials. asbestos, PCBs, several other items. The testing was done by an industrial hygienist. At that time, they did find PCBs in the new wing of the Hanson School, which is basically the wing that faces Central Street. When the PCBs were discovered at the Hanson School, there's an automatic notification that has to be done, both to the state DEP and to the federal EPA office in Boston. At that time, the hygienist has to come up with a plan for remediation of the PCBs, both in the windows, around the caulking, and in the soil, if so found. He did testing of the soil, brought in a subcontractor, a sub-hygienist, if you will, who specializes in PCB. He tested the soil and found that there were traces of PCBs in the soil down to about 6 inches, about 6 feet from the building around the new section of the Hanson School. When we determined that that was there, we contracted, or we actually got 3 bids to have that soil removed. Sin Environmental, who's a Stoughton company, was our low bidder. They came in and removed, as I mentioned, down 6 inches, about 6 feet from the building, or all the way around. And the soil, contaminated soil, is now sitting in 4 containers up at the Hanson School, waiting to be trucked from the Hanson to a waste facility in upstate New York, one of 2 facilities that will accept PCBs. PCBs, as I mentioned, because they're such good insulators, cannot be burned, so it now has to be buried. All of the work that was done at the Hanson was approved by the state. The action plan was approved by the state. The action plan was approved by the federal EPA in Boston. All of this were recorded. There were 2 inspectors on site during the excavation. There was an inspector from the state, and in fact, the person from the EPA showed up. So this has been done as per regulations, everybody's regulations. It will continue to be fenced. The area will be fenced until the windows are removed, and the soil will not be replaced until the windows have been replaced.
May I add? The additional piece of testing that you didn't mention, just to assure anybody who's looking, was the invasive drill testing to make sure that we didn't have any remediation that was necessary in the brick.
In the brick, correct.
Surroundings, so that was found to be not a case in our case,
Correct,
and
that
that
was found to be
sealing
negative.
will be sufficient to, because anybody who goes on a website will see all sorts of horror stories to that, and that we in fact did test for that.
Correct.
What do you mean by sealing?
Before the window is put into place, there is a paint coating, if you will, or sealant that goes around the masonry.
And you're saying that was done?
No, that will be done.
That
when
will
the
be
windows
done,
are.
okay.
Is that?
That is correct. The windows will be removed as hazardous material.
Yeah.
And treated as such, and disposed of as such.
When was the new wing built?
67.
67. So, because I looked at the EPA website, it says it was PCBs were domestically manufactured from 1929 until their manufacture was banned in 79. And if you look at the health effects, PCBs have been demonstrated to cause cancer as well as a variety of other adverse health effects on immune system, reproductive system, nervous system, endocrine system. So my question is, so this was in the Hanson School, and then I presume that testing was done on the windows, or what? Or the initial testing was done on the soil?
Testing was done on the windows, on the caulking, on the soil, on the brick, as mentioned.
I mean, the question I was leading up to is, do we have a plan to look at the other schools in our district as well as other town buildings?
I have no idea about the other town buildings. I'm having enough trouble with school buildings. The plan, at this point in time, we are not required to test unless we approach and do a window project. We tested the DAW. The DAW came back negative. We will do the Gibbons. When we go to do the windows at the Gibbons, we will test at that time.
Well, shouldn't we look at the other schools, just in case?
What are we gonna do? We aren't removing the windows at this point.
I was gonna say,
You
is
said the soil was contaminated.
As part of the
Because-
window, we're removing the soil as part of the window project.
I went, when they were digging, I went and talked to SIN people. They said maybe it's like the rain washing down the contaminants to the soil.
No, the EPA is concerned about why they have it fenced is so people don't track through it and track it all over.
But how do you,
Not that
how
it's,
do you explain the PCBs got into the soil?
it came out of the caulking, they're assuming. There's
No,
the
but
assumption.
how did it come out of the caulking? Did it wash out, or was it caulking?
Windows out.
Was
They don't know. They don't know whether the caulking came off and it contaminated the soil from actually being in the soil. In fact, they found samples of caulking when they did the testing in the soil. So they aren't sure whether when they were putting the windows in, for instance, they were caulking the windows and some of the caulking dropped on the ground, or whether it washed off the windows. They can't tell.
But I was thinking if it's washing down on the soil, then we should test the
But
other.
they can't prove that that's the cause.
But I mean, we want to prove that the otherwise, that doesn't
And again,
exist.
the EPA did not recommend that.
Well, we want to protect our kids better than the EPA recommends.
If that's the suggestion,
How much does it cost to do a soil?
several $100,000.
$700,000 to
Be
do
several
a-
$100,000 to do all our buildings.
you'd have to test every caulk sample from every window.
How much is it per sample?
That I don't know.
Would you find out and report to us?
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Ventresco, are you satisfied?
Yeah,
You
I'm
can-
satisfied. I just brought it up because I was kind of nervous about it when I heard the PCBs were there, because in that part of town in the past, we had a lot of problems with industrial contaminants and got into the surface water, groundwater, bedrock water. Some private wells had to be abandoned. And reluctantly, the town hooked these people up. So I just don't want to see, and we had all different kinds of chemicals and PCBs. I just don't want to see the whole thing mushroom out of control again.
Okay.
But if they're not sure it came from the caulking on the windows, that building was built, what you say,
67.
1967?
That was the addition.
That one part,
Maybe
the
it
new
came in
part.
a loom. When you buy loom,
Yeah.
it could be anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harding, one last question, if you don't mind. You said that this soil is collected and it's sent somewhere out to the Midwest? I don't know where.
New York.
New York.
Upstate New York.
And what do they do with the soil?
And bury it.
Landfill it.
And
Answer
when
the
they
question,
bury
Joe.
it, how deep do they bury it?
Bury it. How deep? I have no idea.
Okay.
No
I'm
clue.
sorry, that's just something that I'm interested in.
You'll have to call the landfill.
You can call SIN. Okay.
Dr. Earl?
Yes.
I'm either requesting that we move up the item on the high school building update, since Mr. Harding's involved with that, or since we're discussing other topics, I have two requests or two questions that I'd like to ask of him, just so the public has the ability to hear. So either.
So why don't you? I'm gonna declare a 5-minute recess, and then we'll do what you suggested.
Okay, you want to go to 7 next? Is that
We
it?
are in recess.
Okay. we're back, Dr. Hero.
Oh, welcome back. Mr. Harding, Ms. Husseini wanted to ask you a few more questions related to school buildings.
Yes, well, or related to what's happening in and around the schools as school is opening. One is that I understand that there is an update on the west roof is being replaced for people who aren't aware of it, and that work continues, and that you had an update that you wanted to share about the availability of, was it the gymnasium?
Yes, correct. The West School Roof project is ongoing. We expect it to be done by now. We had some unforeseen situations, circumstances with the West School Roof. It turned out that we had to end up taking the entire roof and deck off of the gym. And the decking material that was on there contained asbestos. So it's being done under a full containment. They started yesterday removing material. They expect to be done by tomorrow. At that time, we'll have air clearances done. If the air clearances come back okay, they will start putting the new roof deck on and the new roof shortly thereafter. But we do not expect to have the gym available to us for the first week of school.
Okay.
But all the hazardous material work will be done before school starts.
Thank you. And the second question that I have, and it's only because of a conversation that I had that we had with Mr. Batchelder, who was at a meeting earlier in the week, was I think people who've driven around the schools at the end of the school year last year and this year see that there's a tremendous amount of work going on, and that I know I didn't ask you in advance for the status of that, and that Mr. Batchelder isn't necessarily the person who can give you the answers because he's not totally in control of the work that's being done. But if you could give us a brief idea of what's happening around the schools.
You've seen many of the roads, not only around the schools but around town, have been dug up. There are actually two different projects going on. One is a water main replacement, and over towards the Hanson School is a gas main replacement project. As of right now, the area around the high school that has been excavated, we are expecting that they are going to pave that area, the Adams Street, Cushing Street area this week to get it finished up. However, they have also told me that they will be excavating other parts of town, including some Summer Street and Winter Street area over the next month to 6 weeks. So we will expect delays and rerouting of our buses.
And I think a thing for people to keep in mind is that that is work that is neither done by the schools or the town directly by and we have no control over the fact that sometimes the crews aren't able to vacate before the end of the school day, and that a little patience and a little planning. It will impact bus routes. It will impact.
And for some reason, and I don't know what the reason is, but they seem to jump around town.
Yeah.
I mean, they will be on Adams Street one day, the next day they're up on Page Terrace. I don't know if it's based on the materials they have available or the manpower, I don't know, but they seem to surprise me from day to day.
But I would like to thank Mr. Batchelder in particular for his work on crosswalks. I think that the attention in the last couple of days, he's told us he's focusing around the schools first. There's a great new product that he's using that's highly reflective, really trying to focus through the Transportation Task Force and others on prioritizing those areas of safety and concern around schools, and I really thank him for his efforts on that.
Yes.
And the last thing I have is, because we have a facility master plan meeting coming up and another project about to start, really looking for an idea of where we are with the current project. And I know that Dr. Ural, there was an Exhibit A that required a signature so that we can move forward with the accelerated repair. Has that been signed, do you know, or does anybody know?
No. Well, I was going to talk to that at the high school.
Okay.
So let's go back to that later on. Was there anything else?
That was my list, thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Harding?
Was he going to be part of the high school conversation, or?
Could do. If you wanted to stay, then you should move that item up.
Then we should move that item up if he's part of that conversation.
Stay right there, Joe.
You want to?
Okay, so you want to talk about the high school? So you give us a update. So we are jumping over 5 and 6, jumping to item number 7.
Okay.
New high school building update.
Well,
That has to do with the, that it was announced, let me see now, by the Mass School Building Authority, announced that the town of Stoughton was going to be invited to collaborate in conducting the feasibility study. Is that what you were going to talk about?
I did not put this item on the agenda, so you'll have to give me some, a little bit more to understand
Well, we just wanted
what
to
we want
find
to
out.
talk about.
You know, we found out through the grapevine that, that there was a building committee formed.
Oh, okay.
And a meeting has been held. In fact, Mr. Fitzgerald told me in passing when I was going to the other meeting. So could you tell us, you know, what's been going on, what has happened?
In fact, there has been a meeting of the school building committee that is required by the MSBA for the process of the feasibility study for the high school, and the committee would be in charge of building if we get successfully through the feasibility process. So that first meeting was held last week, and a subcommittee has been formed to begin the process of hiring an owner's project manager for the feasibility study. A chair was elected. That is Mr. Recupero, who is also the chair of the Board of Selectmen. A vice chair was elected, and there will be another meeting to hear from the subcommittee that's looking into the OPM process in 2 weeks.
Do we know who the vice chair is?
A gentleman named Joel Woke.
And can you tell us something about him?
Mr. Woke has a great deal of experience with building, is a resident of Stoughton, and is now retired.
There's a great deal with buildings?
Yes, he was an owner's project manager and worked on a number of projects that included the MSBA. And I don't know his entire history, but he has done a great deal of work of this type. And he is the community member representative on the school building committee.
Who's the chair?
As I just said,
TJ Recupero.
Mr. Recupero, who is
TJ is
also
the
the
chair?
chair of the Board of Selectmen,
Yes.
is the chair of the school building committee.
So who are the members of the school building committee?
The school building committee the roles are very prescribed by the MSBA, so a select person representative, a school committee representative, the superintendent of schools, the town manager, one or more community members, the facilities manager for the schools, the purchasing agent for the town, and that might...
FinCom chair.
The chair of the finance committee, yes.
So
Yes.
who's the school committee representative?
That would be Dr. Brown.
Dr. Brown, did you know there was a meeting?
We'll talk about this. I don't know. I don't want to talk about this right
So
now.
you didn't know there was a meeting?
I'm aware of everything that she said.
Did you know there
I'm
was
aware of
a
everything
meeting last week?
I'm aware of everything that she said.
So why didn't you go to that meeting?
Personal reasons.
Well, you're a school committee representative.
You can't
If
tell me how to
go-
live my life, Dr. Erdem.
If you can't go, then you should let
Dr.
the other
Erdem.
members know, give them an opportunity. I can't believe you have a committee is formed, and the chair is elected, school committee representative has been appointed, and the school committee representative doesn't go to that meeting, and she fails to inform the committee that she can't go and send somebody in her place.
I don't believe you can do that. The
That's
meeting-
beside the point. Why didn't the superintendent inform us that there was a meeting?
It's not my meeting, and it was posted in town hall. It's
That's
the
what I
town
expect
manager's
you
meeting.
to say.
I
Ms.
was
Enochian.
I was just disappointed because I've asked Mr. Hartman who he appointed, and I've never gotten an answer. I've made it clear that I've been looking to see who got appointed. I never knew about this meeting. I didn't realize that Dr. Brown got appointed. Congratulations.
Thank you, dear.
Good luck. And I have an interest in this, and I would have liked to have a chance.
And of course, the school committee has an interest in this, as previous members of the school committee worked tirelessly to get us to this point.
Yeah.
The school building committee is not a school committee appointment.
That's right.
The members are recommended by the town manager, and the MSBA then looks at the list of proposed members and approves or disapproves them. So my understanding is that the town manager wanted to make sure that the potential appointees were all approved, because if a person is not approved by the MSBA after they've been recommended, that can cause them some professional or personal embarrassment. So the actual appointments have to be vetted by the MSBA before they can be made public, to avoid someone being put forward who then in the end is not acceptable to the MSBA.
Okay.
The MSBA requires that at least one school committee representative be as a part of that building committee. And Mr. Hartman, I told him that there are a few other people interested. We should at least get one more, and he refused. So.
Can you understand, though, that we have no control over
We
that?
have no
And the Board of Selectmen limited the number to 9, because I got to tell you, I'm out of this process. I'm the one person who will not comment. No, will not comment on it. But people have asked me why so-and-so from the community who's an engineer or an architect or whatever hasn't been appointed. And the fact is that, by the time he filled those required slots, there was really room for one community member or one additional appointment. And if we want additional members on the committee, that is something the selectmen will have to expand the number allowed, because they set that at a meeting and they set it at 9.
Joyce, last year, before the election, you said when you were the chair, you said who's interested in serving on the building committee.
And I didn't understand
and
the
Deborah
process.
Sauvigny raised her hand, and I did. And then you said you are going to make a decision
No, I
on
did
your
not.
own. So you're not
I did
remotely
not
on this
say I was going to
process.
make a decision. I have
Well,
never
we can-
excuse
we
me.
can- we
You
can
are
look at the
attacking
video.
you are attacking my
I'm not
personal
attacking-
integrity.
I'm
I
just-
do not, and I have
I'm
said
just saying,
publicly,
that's
Dr.
part of
Ural,
the video,
stop.
Okay, you look at the video.
I am. Please, you owe me an apology. You are
This is
attacking my
saying
opinion.
Look at the,
I'm
look
sorry.
at the video. That's-
No,
I mean,
this is how you
it is
address
what it
everything,
is.
and I am quite honestly sick of it.
Okay.
I am too.
But I'll cut that portion of the video and I post it.
Please do. I'm sure you will.
Next is, so I drafted a letter to Mr. Recupero, and I sent it to him.
I'm sorry.
It says, I'd like to read it. Dear Chairman Recupero, this is to request that the Board of Selectmen direct Town Manager Michael Hartman to provide the school committee with the list of members of the school building committee. I also request that the board direct Town Manager Hartman to cooperate with the student school committee fully and honestly. As you are aware, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA, and the town of Stoughton have entered into a feasibility study agreement for Stoughton High School to determine if renovations or a new construction project is to be approved by the MSBA. As part of this process, Mr. Hartman appointed individuals to the school building committee. Despite the fact that the building project is a priority for the school district, Mr. Hartman has refused to include the school committee in determining who will be on the school building committee. While Mr. Hartman purportedly appointed a member of the school committee to the school building committee, he did so without asking the full school committee which member or how many members are interested in serving on the school building committee. According to MSBA, at least one member of the school committee needs to serve on the building committee, but can be more than one. Mr. Hartman held the first meeting of the building committee without the courtesy of informing the school committee. As a result, I understand there was no school committee representatives in the first meeting. Mr. Hartman has not informed the school committee, officially or unofficially, who the other members of the school building committee are. This is another example of Mr. Hartman's disrespect towards the school committee. On behalf of the school committee, I have made repeated requests to Mr. Hartman that he identify the members of the school building committee. Since he continues to refuse to do so, this is to request that the Board of Selectmen, as Mr. Hartman's employer, direct him to share the members of the school building committee to me in my capacity as the chairman of the Stoughton School Committee. I also request the board to direct Town Manager Hartman to cooperate with the school committee fully and honestly.
Can I ask where you took a vote that, because you said on behalf of the school committee, you've made several requests. I don't recall voting.
I didn't, so I wrote that letter.
Well, but you didn't do it on
That's my
behalf.
prerogative as a chair.
Then you should say that you're doing it on your own, because you did not do it as a vote of the school committee.
Well, if you want, I'll send him another letter saying I did that.
I would appreciate that, because again, I need to be on the
No,
record that I've not
let's,
voted on anything associated with this project.
Then Mr. Hartman sends me some Excel worksheets. I don't know where they came from. They came, which I couldn't understand what they were. They were, maybe Dick can explain to us what it is. So it said that in here, it's like an Excel worksheet. It says sign here. And then it says Hartman's signature, and then there is another person's signature. So I said, well, let me have Michael Hartman sign it. Then I will sign it after that, knowing that you know it's kosher. And then let's see, there has been some few emails going back and forth. But in any case, this is similar to, remember a few months back, Mr. Hart, the school committee warrants were being paid before the school committee signed the warrants, saying that the bills are legitimate. So this is the same thing. You know, he sends me some stuff I don't understand. So I said, let's sit down and figure it out. And if you don't want to sit down, sign it first, so I know that this is legitimate. So he's refusing it. The last we left it is I sent him an email today again, saying I still have not heard from you regarding my request below. Do we have a deadline to send this in? Since Michael has been withholding information from the school committee, I want him to explain to me what the documents he wants me to sign are. I also need him to assure me that the numbers are accurate before I sign them. Please schedule the meeting. So I'm trying to get them to schedule the meeting, and I want to sign it, but I want to know what it is.
The email you have clearly describes what it is, because the email was copied to all of us, and it is the Exhibit A, which is the payment form for the accelerated repair projects that are in progress,
Well, then
on
you
which I
sign it.
can't speak. I cannot. It calls for the chair of the school committee to sign it. Mr. Fitzgerald signed it as the
I want
vice chair of
Mr.
the.
Hartman to explain it to me. That's
It was
all.
in the email, and you are holding up the process. And quite honestly,
not
this is
holding up
really
the
you're
process.
holding up the
No,
process
for what?
for approval. And Mr.
For what?
Fitzgerald, as
Not worth it.
one of the signatories, has a comment he'd like to make.
Worth it.
Yeah, go ahead.
He likes this.
Just to bring this into, to make it a little clearer, this is not a new process. The chief procurement officer of the town of Stoughton is the town manager. He has final signature on every project. Every municipal project, he has final signature. It has to be signed properly. The proper signatures were Superintendent Rizzi, the chairman of the School Facilities Master Plan Committee, who was unavailable. Vice chairman signs in his place.
That's you.
That's me.
So you signed it.
I had to sign
What's
it.
the problem?
It's the Exhibit A. It's for the accelerated programs for the repairs of the buildings for the Hanson West and Daw. Daw. Okay, we haven't got into the Gibbons yet.
Right.
But these need to be signed. These need to be forwarded, and this is monies that will come back from the MSBA. Let's not get off on the wrong foot with MSBA because we don't want to sign something.
That's
It's
exactly
imperative.
my point. That's exactly
Imperative,
my
Mike,
point.
it has to be signed.
And I want to get into cooperative relationship with
Let me-
Michael Hartman,
I-
and I will do so.
You
Gotta
will
be
do
nice
so.
to him.
But the best thing to do is you get more with with honey and sugar than you do with salt and other seasonings. Let's go forward with this. A lot of work has been put in. 10 years of my work, Joyce's work, Joel's work, Meg's work has been put into these projects. And I explained it to you in April, and I'll explain it again. I don't want these projects stopped.
They won't.
They are.
They are. They are.
They are being stopped.
I have a
Is it his
question, I have a
signature?
question, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Can the vice chair sign?
Is it because of his signature, sir?
Huh?
Is it because of his signature?
It has to be signed here and go to Mr. Hartman for
Could
his
the vice
signature.
chair, could the vice chairperson sign it?
That is
It's our own
a question
politics.
that would have to go.
Yeah,
technical.
because
I don't know
if he
that.
wants to
But
play
I
the
am
games.
telling you that this is not something new. When the gymnasium at the middle school was done, the last signature on all of that paperwork and the chief procurement officer for that project was Phil Farrington. He signed everything, and he was the last
Mr.
signature.
Fitzgerald, it's unfair for you to say that just because I want more information
No, I
from
understand you
the
want
town
more
manager,
information, but
that is
you-
my
you-
responsibility,
yeah, but you-
and that is going to
but you
stop.
make
All
it
the
sound like-
construction is going to stop.
He yells at men
I don't
too,
think
huh?
you mean. I don't think you mean that, and I don't think that's
Well,
true.
I hope that nothing starts, but I want us to get off on the right foot with the MSBA, please.
That's fine. That's
Okay,
what-
fine.
that's what I
But
want
you
too.
have to trust people. That's what I'm asking you. Trust people.
Right. So
The
I-
project is
I
done.
trust
The
people.
project, if you trust them, sign the paperwork, get it up there so we can get going. Please.
Excuse me, sir, excuse me. I think that this will get signed.
I hope so.
But I think that there seems to be a problem between Mr. Hartman and Dr. Euro.
And they're men, let them solve it outside of here.
No.
They're
We don't
men.
do that.
They're not ladies,
We
they're
don't do
men.
that. That's not what's to
Solve
be
it.
done.
It's
Stop
not.
playing
It's
games.
not between me and
You're
Michael
holding up
Hartman.
kids'
It's
educational
the,
process,
town
and this is the
manager
problem.
and the school committee.
The point being is that, as I said, it's between two people. And I think we can resolve that in a short period of time. Now,
It's not
what's the
between two people,
deadline
it's
for
the
this?
process. That's the process.
I
That's
understand.
That's the paperwork.
And
That's
what
how it
you're
has to be
telling me
signed.
is that Mr. Hartman has to be the last one to sign
Correct.
it? There's no other, what am I trying to say?
You can't get around it.
Protocol?
In other words, for instance, when it comes to signing warrants, okay, there's no special order to sign it.
There
Does
is.
it have to be that order?
It is the special order to sign. The
No,
last,
there
Actually,
the
Mr.
last name on the warrant is the chief procurement officer, town manager, Michael Hartman. That's the last
Okay.
signature.
Well,
But
we,
when it
the way,
comes
Mr.
here-
Same thing with
Fitzgerald,
this.
Mr. Fitzgerald, the last we talked, Mr. Hartman's secretary or selectman's secretary said, come here, you will sign it together, you'll get together. So that's what I did. I was in the
Well, then
middle of
why
my conference
Could
call.
I ask you a question?
Wait a minute.
How come
I
you
was
didn't
in
say
the
that
middle
10
of-
minutes ago and I would have been
I
sitting here?
I was in the middle of
He
my
changes the
conference
story.
call. I walked out to town hall, and then Mr. Hartman wouldn't come out.
That's between you and them.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
why is
telling
it?
you-
So
I'm
that's
telling
why
you- I'm
I
telling you
wanna
to
be
sign it.
face to
I'm telling
face,
you to sign it, have
and
him
then
sign it, get going.
we'll sign it. We'll sign it together. That's no big
The
deal.
sooner the better, because we have
And
a meeting
I'm
next week.
also, Mr. Soros had a good point. What is the deadline? I've been asking, what's the deadline? Nobody tells me the deadline.
Well,
It's
let's look good.
late.
Let's look good in front of the MSBA.
Okay, that's what I want.
Look polished up.
Excuse me, the question was, what's the deadline? Does it have to be tomorrow?
What
June
was the
22nd.
So we're over the deadline, is what
We
you're saying?
just got it. So why is it given us late? Why is it late?
Wasn't late.
It was given him on
I saw it last week. What do you mean it was given to me on time?
Yeah, but he said June 22nd.
They gave it to him already.
June 22nd? Are you saying it was June 22nd? I mean, same thing he did with the agreement for the, he was late on that one too.
Well,
Uh,
please go, get it done.
We will.
Thanks for your time.
You're quite welcome, sir. It's a real man right there.
June
We're
22nd.
gonna take care of that tomorrow. We had Joel up there.
Okay. Anything else on the
We all done with Joel?
Good
Mr.
night,
Harding,
yes.
are we all complete with you, sir?
Yes.
Have a great day, sir.
So,
Okay,
Dr.
so we did-
Erlen?
Yes,
can I ask you a
ma'am.
que- So, therefore, you and Mr. Hardin's going to sit down and settle this, correct?
That's what I've been trying.
Okay.
That's what I've
That's
been
all I
trying.
need to know. Okay, thank you.
And I just want to make it clear that I just wanted to know who was on the high school building committee. That's all
I
I
think
was.
that's what we asked
I was
officially.
just-
And if the selectman
All the
doesn't want to
signing
do it,
stuff I
I
didn't
can
know
take
about.
them to
If you
Walter,
ask it
but I can-
nicely, they'll give it to you.
I asked
asked them
nicely.
nicely. Carol, I'll send you the emails that nicely begging,
Dr. Brown,
begging
Dr.
portion,
Brown,
begging
Don't call me Carol.
emails to tell me, who's on the school committee. Can I get one more person? This person wants to be on there. Yeah, that too. I went there. I went to his office. He said, no, you're gonna only have one person. I said, how did you know who to, face-to-face conversation. I said, how did you know who to pick from the select school committee? How would you know? He said, Dr. Rizzi gave me a name. That's what he said.
more with honey than with salt.
And then it was like a resume building thing or whatever. So anyways, any other discussion on?
But I am qualified.
I never
To
said
be
you weren't.
qualified, you have to be a school committee member.
I am.
That's it. And then go to the meeting.
And also, I have the education. I'm used to doing facilities for Boston, so I build homes. I'm real good at this.
Okay. It would have been better like, if this went through the school committee.
Just a little communication would have been nice.
They don't want to talk to him because he yells at people. That's why.
I don't yell. You are the one who yells.
No, I'm a sweet lady.
I'm a sweet guy.
Sugar and spice,
know.
everything nice.
Right, come on.
Okay, next is
Administrative coverage,
done.
5.
administrative coverage during school days. This is to do with. Thank you, Dick.
They have a good night.
Thank you.
This is to do with superintendent and assistant superintendent reporting to work in the mornings. I noticed that, and other people have noticed too, that you report to work around 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Is that true?
No.
When do you report to work?
It depends on where I'm going to be, where I go first in the morning, and it depends on the day.
Mr. Ford, when do you report to work?
Is he following him around?
Yeah, this is.
This is crazy.
Dr. L, I have an authorized flex by the superintendent for certain weeks over the summer.
I'm talking about school days.
School days? My office opens at 8:30
Generally,
and
we
stays
work
open until
from-
4:30.
We usually work from about 8:30 until about 9:30 or 10 at night during school days.
Dr. L, my typical hours where the office is open is 8:30 to 4:30. I challenge you to come here in a day and find that I'm not here well past those hours.
So you come here at 8:30 in the morning?
So is my secretary. We both work on a flex out of our regular office.
What does that mean?
It means we've, much like the teachers can do now, instead of the typical 8 to 4, on which the regular office is open, we work from 8:30 to 4:30. And it gives me the opportunity to stay later every day and keep the office open later and keep my secretary there later. Because in particular for our teachers that work all day, a lot of the time that they need time at the end of the day to come and meet with me to talk about whatever the issues might be.
So when you say flex, does that mean that you come to work at 8:30 and then work late, or you flex? To me, flex means you come in late, you leave late.
Well, my hours, I don't have set hours in my contract. I work until the job's done.
Right.
But our office hours are 8 to 4, our general office hours at the main office. The office hours for myself and my secretary are 8:30 to 4:30. So the 8-hour span at which I'm available, generally available to my office, starts at 8:30 and ends at 4:30. We flexed our hours because we need more time open, she and I, at the end of the school day, because we spend a lot of time working with teachers, be it related to all the specific issues of licensure, whatever it might be. And it's more advantageous for us to have that office open later than to close at 4 o'clock and basically shut down operations.
I understand that. So, but when you say you flexed your hours, the secretary comes at 8:30 and then you come at 9:30.
I come at 8:30 every day.
So how is it flexed? I'm trying to understand.
Instead of 8. Our office hours flex. The main office is open. The central office is open from 8 to 4 every day. It's when the door is open, so when the door is closed. For our particular office, we go from 8:30 to 4:30. So if you wanted to schedule an appointment with me, you couldn't schedule an 8, well, you could schedule an 8 o'clock appointment because I could come in at 8 o'clock. But generally, we schedule from 8:30 to 4:30. That way, we can stay open later, and we can provide a bigger window for teachers in our school district to come in if they have issues with.
Actually, that was going to be my point. But I was wondering, because teachers contractually come to work at 7:30, and most of them are in school by 7. What I was saying is, would it make sense to have a staggered schedule? One of you come at 7, and then the other one comes in later, and then you swap the schedule. So that's why I just wanted to put it on the table to see how the school committee members feel. Because as you mentioned, I mean, there are 2 aspects to it. One is increasing the face time with the teachers, because that's one of the relationships that we want to improve on. And the other part is, you are the, you're a deputy superintendent. She is the superintendent. So you are the ultimately responsible person about the kids. So wouldn't it make sense to have, somebody ultimately responsible in the central office be present, and so that we cover the hours?
Well, I will say that our hours are an operational decision and an administrative decision, and setting the hours of the administrator is not one of the roles of the school committee.
We just go what it says within the contract. The contract doesn't specify. We are your employers, and we can have input on the hours.
He's not speaking for me.
I'm speaking for myself. Did I say I speak for Carol Brown?
Why? And you call me to Carol Brown again, we're going to have a problem. That's not nice. I don't call you whatever your name is. I call you Dr. Erdem.
Okay, I call you
And everybody in the
Carol.
public knows the disrespect, so you need to stop it.
So I don't speak for her.
You have a bad day, stay home.
Any other comments on this?
My only comment, or I guess question is and Mr. Ford said it, that if the request is there to meet earlier, he'd be there. Is there ever a time when if a teacher said, could we meet you at 7 o'clock, because that's when I get in, that you wouldn't honor that request?
It happens, and of course I would, and I will even mention that there were a couple of meetings as early as 7 o'clock related to the West School roof, even in the last few days. So we make sure that there's coverage when there needs to be, and frankly, we average about 60 to 80 hours a week because of the places that we're needed to be and the times we need to be there.
Dr. May I ask Dr. Rizzi a question? Do we set your hours?
Nope.
Oh.
I'd be
Thank
happy
you.
to. I mean, we could talk about cutting back on 20 to 40 of those hours a week.
No,
but,
we don't need you to do that.
But I think it's necessary to get the job done.
Okay. So moving right along. Next item is 6.
These are all
At
arguments.
the last meeting, when we were talking about the superintendent's goals, we were trying to put challenging goals that's a priority for district students.
Number 6 is an update on
Yeah,
2000.
I know.
Oh, okay.
So the superintendent, well, we wanted to put Gibbons School or the West School as a goal topic, and it was told the school committee that we're going to have the results by next meeting in August, and that we are going to see a significant improvement, and then the Gibbons School is not going to be level 3 school. So can you give us an update on the 2014 MCAS results?
I actually did not use those words since I'm not in a position to predict. We are not able to influence when the state releases the scores.
That's correct.
And in different years, they're later or earlier, and fortunately now we generally get them before the school year starts so that we can use them right away, although not always. We cannot speak about the scores until the state lifts the embargo on the scores, and the embargo has not been lifted and will be lifted sometime in mid-September, but they have not given us a date. So until they release the scores and we have them to look at and digest, we can't speak about them at a public meeting.
And it's the state that lifts the embargo?
It's their scores.
Do you know why there's an embargo?
Every year, they give the districts a period of time to look at the scores and determine if they're accurate and make any changes that they might see. So, for instance, a couple of years ago in the middle school, they suddenly had a very large Hispanic subgroup. Didn't seem to reflect the actual population of students. So then they went back and looked and saw that by accident a number of students named O'Brien, Hogan, and various other names had accidentally, the young kids, misrepresented themselves as Hispanic. And so the state had to, am I right?
Really?
This is the middle school. So during the embargo period, the school worked with the state to get that, the accuracy of those things changed. Well, the inaccuracy to be fixed. So it's a period of dialogue between the districts and the state, and it is not within our control. And I assure you that as soon as we are able to release those scores and talk about them, we will be more than happy to do so.
So then that'll go on
that
next
will go
month,
on,
right?
but
If
she
it's
said
by the
middle-
next
middle
meeting,
of,
then it'll be by the next meeting. If they haven't released them by the next meeting, then it will be by the next meeting that they release them.
Okay, so we'll put it on next month, and then if you don't have it by then we'll put it on the next month. Oh, well, that's why we
Okay.
go to 2 every month, that's right.
Yes, we are going back to 2 every month.
Item number 8, financial report for August 2014. So
Hi.
I guess it's in the packets that people got their financial report.
You got a financial report because of the fact that you want one every month, and this is the new fiscal year budget setup. So this is the new budget that you have. The fiscal 14 budget is still being closed out. We have some bills that are still, well, they're not circulating, but the process of closing out the fiscal 14 budget is still going on. So I think by September we will have it closed out, at which point you'll get an update on the 15 budget, the new one you just got, and a closeout report on fiscal 14. There are still quite a few items that have not been completely processed, although the money's encumbered for them, so there isn't going to be any need to go to the Finance Committee or anything like that, but there are still some bills in process. Maureen, don't you usually have a computer?
I asked her that. Her husband took it. I like the color of your pen, though. It's neat.
Now all you've got is a pen.
Back in the day.
So this one is, this financial report is going from July 1st, 2014 until June 30th, 2015.
That is
So
the
does that
fiscal year
mean-
of 15.
Does that mean the last month, the one we got is the final, that reflects the final figures?
Nope, as I just said, the fiscal 14 budget is not yet closed out. We hope by September that we will have all the bills processed, at which point you will get a second FY15 budget and the closeout budget of FY14. There are still bills outstanding.
But did I hear you correctly? The amounts there reflect all the encumbered encumbered amounts and nothing more, nothing less?
This budget has nothing to do with FY14.
Talking about the last month's reports.
Last
That's
month's,
complete and accurate.
it was complete and accurate up to that time. There were still a lot of bills in process, and there are still some outstanding at this time.
So then shouldn't we be getting the complete and accurate as of this time for this period?
Well, this is the new budget, and you'll get the completed FY14 budget when that's done, which is it's almost done.
Now, we still see, like, I think we've seen one last week or the week before, the last batch of bill warrants. Still bill warrants going through for fiscal 14.
Which is exactly what I just said.
Three times.
FY14 is not yet done because there are still bills in process from FY14.
I thought the town manager informed us that we could encumber it up until July 15th.
But as long as it's encumbered, the bills that are in process for the money that has been encumbered continue to be processed. We cannot encumber anything new, and we cannot take any materials into the district after June 30th.
Okay, so July 15th was the date that you could encumber it up to that time, and July 22nd was the date of the financial report. So that should have been complete and accurate information.
It is complete and accurate information, as everything that you get.
But you said that it doesn't have all the stuff that has been encumbered.
It's not a complete budget yet because those bills are still being paid. We never have authority to make decisions about spending after the start of the new fiscal year. And I hope by the next meeting, but certainly by the end of September, we will have closed out all of the bills for FY14.
Do you remember when it was last year, which month that we closed the books?
It's always pretty much the same. It takes a few weeks after the close of the fiscal year to get all of the bills completely processed. Sometimes
I
on the
seem to
town
remember
side,
August.
it can take as much as 6 months.
Is that right? Not just 6 months.
We generally are able to take care of it in a shorter time than that. Our system runs a little differently.
That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
In our case, it will never be 6 months.
Okay. Any other questions on the financial reports?
No.
In that case, actually, we did both 8 and 9, unless somebody wants to talk about 9. Seeing none. Superintendent's goals.
Okay. Let
So,
me talk about that. Go ahead.
After the last conversation we had, there was a lot of talk about going to events at particular schools, so I did not remove anything from the first goal related to actual school improvement, so the items related to school councils and the establishment of a district council are still there, and the way to use those meetings and how they relate to the school improvement process. But I will add to that goal attending one PTO, PTA, depending on the school, meeting and an informal event at each school during the evaluation cycle, in addition to those things. So that was certainly something of which there was a fair amount of conversation. So I would ask at this point, so that I can actually get going with these things, that with that amendment, which reflects a lot of the interest of the committee members, that you vote the goals and we move forward.
Actually, I mean, we have discussed a lot of things, and this has been on the agenda for a long time. Last meeting, I passed out a two-page sheet that set the what one side had said what the Department of Elementary Secondary Education recommends, or it's the guide. That's their, I guess, document. It says, in consultation with the superintendent and with the objective of achieving mutual agreement, The committee revises as needed and adopts at least one professional practice and one student learning goal. And then the school committee responsibilities was to ensure that the goals and actions detailed in superintendent's annual plan are challenging, B, measurable, and C, focused on high priority needs of the district student. And the school committee chair's responsibilities included oversee the superintendent evaluation process and ensure that all steps in the process are conducted effectively and with integrity. And then on the back, the listed the 5 goals that the superintendent proposed. And so far, she hasn't really budged about getting any school committee input onto those. The problems with the superintendent's the goals the superintendent wants to pick is that the goals proposed by the superintendent are not challenging. The goals proposed by the superintendent are not focused on the high priority needs of the district students. So as a compromise, I proposed a possible path forward. I said school committee identifies goal topics representing high priority needs of the district students. Superintendent writes and proposes the goals pertaining to selected topics. And superintendent ensures that the new proposed goals are challenging and measurable. So the idea here is that you get an input from the school committee as to what we think are the high priority needs of the district is. And I listed 1 to 5 possible goal topics, and we have discussed this in detail. One was to improve special education, which is responsible for recent demotion of Gibbons School and hence the district to level 3. Second possible topic is improve the student achievement in West School. Depending on where one looks, West School is at the bottom 15 to bottom 23% of all public elementary schools in Massachusetts. Possible topic number 3, improve science education in elementary schools. Our student achievement in elementary science is substantially below state average. Possible topic number 4, improve communications with parents, students, and employees and residents. And the 5th is improve accountability, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. So I'm really surprised that the superintendent didn't pick any one of those, except as a school committee input, she's proposing to attend at least one PTA meeting as the school committee response to school committee input, and one informal event at each school during the evaluation cycle. So to me, I mean, these are not challenging. These are not addressing the district's high priority needs of the district students. But as Dr. Brown says, that's my own opinion. So to me, if we can't agree on good goals, it's better not to have goals.
May I say something?
Yes.
I'm reading from Dr. Rizzi's contract. And I want everybody out there to know this is her contract. In her contract, they have what they call an evaluation. And the reason why I'm reading this is because you keep talking about mutual agreement, and I'm not sure that the people out there understand what mutual agreement means. Under evaluation of her contract, it says the superintendent will meet with the school committee to develop an evaluation procedure instrument. Instrument in law is a formal deed or contract. The evaluation instrument will be mutually agreed upon by the beginning of each contract year by the superintendent and the school committee. The school committee shall evaluate the superintendent's performance according to the evaluation procedure instrument referred to above. The evaluation instrument will be based on mutually agreed upon goals. The foregoing paragraph shall not limit the superintendent and/or the school committee from discussing and/or reviewing the superintendent's performance at any time. At the 7/22 meeting, Dr. Rizzi, you kept saying you have talked many, many times about your goals. Maybe it's because you talk individually to every single person. I wanted to have a meeting with you and Katie, and you canceled the meeting, of which you have no recollection. You even admitted that after the 7/22 meeting. I remember making that meeting with you and Katie. I remember making that meeting, not that we went to that meeting, but with you and Katie. Also, Katie remembers making that meeting which you have no recollection of. You refused to have a group meeting so that all of us can hear what everyone has to say. That is the learning process. I want to know when you are going to these parents' meetings and PTOs so that I can evaluate you, which is the same way a teacher is evaluated in a classroom. You don't ask the teacher to evaluate herself, yet you are asking me to listen to your goals and your evaluations of yourself. If I was doing my own evaluation, I would say I excelled or exceeded. That's not the way things are done. I'm going to evaluate you. I'm going to evaluate you. Do I evaluate you through your eye or through mine? I believe through mine. You refuse to write specific things down in your goals, but state they are in your standards. But your standards don't mention specifically what you are going to do. Therefore, how are they measurable? I must see by your actions how they are measurable. In your goals, I would like to see something about the West School and the O'Donnell School. We spent 2 hours with you on July 1st trying to come to some conclusion to your goals, and all I got from you was we were setting you up. You take pride in the people your staff hires, and I believe you or your staff hired those people in those schools. If you have faith in them and you have faith in yourself, it will be a mutual agreed upon goal. Then you have, let me see if I get this right. If you have faith in them and you have faith in yourself, and it will be a mutual agreed upon goal, then you have a say on what percent increases those schools should move to. Let's negotiate where we are and where we could be and what it will take to get there. Remember, last meeting, I told you I was at your pleasure because we had spoken about this, and I haven't heard a word from you about this at all. So it's going to be very, very difficult for me to come to an agreement on you or with you on mutual goals. I know what the contract says, and the contract really binds me. But what really happens is, let's say you and I don't agree on goals, then where do we go from this, Doctor? I need to know this. Where do we go?
Is that a real question?
That's a real question, Doctor.
Well, we've been having this conversation for quite a number of meetings now. I believe the goals that I proposed with input from everybody who wanted to have input.
No, you keep
and we
saying
had
I'm sorry. You keep saying with input for everybody who wants input, but you know as well as I do that I made a date with you and you canceled it, and yet we never got back together again, and you kind of seem to want to put it on me. But the point is, I want to have goals with everybody together in a room. You don't want to do that. You want to separate and conquer, in my words.
Well, I did have a meeting with Katie.
Yes,
and
but
then we had a meeting, you and Dr. Urell came, and Mary was there and took notes.
Yes, she was.
Probably around 3 hours of conversation
2 hours,
around
but go
goals.
ahead. No one's counting.
So we've had those meetings. The group meetings are the meetings that we have here when we discuss them in a public meeting. We have a process that we agreed on. It was voted in March.
What process do we agree on, Doctor?
The evaluation process for the superintendent for this cycle was voted by the committee. It's been handed out in various meetings that we've been discussing the goals. It wasn't actually in the packet this time.
Okay.
Because everybody has copies now and should be, of course, very familiar with it. So, so Dr. Urell has stated the same thing on multiple occasions. I believe that the goals that are in the proposed goals are very related to student achievement and the high priority needs of the district. There are goals and there are standards. The standards, you use a rubric and look at evidence. The goals have action steps, and the proposed goals have both of those things, which conform with the state evaluation process. So part of the conversation we had last time did result in my adding what seems to be important to a number of people. So I was happy to do that, although I will say that I don't see that as a particularly challenging goal as opposed to some of the other ones. But it is important to some of you, so I'm happy to put it in there. So I think the time has come to have a vote. Everybody's had their say, and generally speaking, when people have begun to repeat themselves multiple times, it's time to just make a decision. And then we'll see where we go from there.
Well, you know, I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with you. I'm still not satisfied. I'm not satisfied with your goals. I think that there are more important things, like the West School and the O'Donnell School.
Gibbons.
The Gibbons School.
You're telling them everything to say.
Pardon me?
That's not nice. Yeah, Mr.
Excuse me?
I mean, Dr. Brown.
I'm Mr. now?
She's making snipes at you.
No, I meant
I'm
O'Donnell
Mr.
School
now.
too.
Oh, God.
And I think these things have to be clarified, but the fact is that we have sat with you, and what you basically have done, you have not negotiated with us, you have stuck firmly to what you want to do. And these are the points that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that you're being very, very difficult in your mannerism to get this thing established.
That's right. I mean, we are supposed to come up with a mutually agreeable, it's a give and take process, it's a negotiation process, and we work for the best interest of the kids. Maybe we have a disconnect, but I mean, I put down in here 5 areas that I think we need to improve on. And I said, you just pick 2 and write out the goal yourself, write out the milestones yourself. So we are not trying to force you into anything, we are just giving you the input. But as Mr. Soar said, you came up with these your original goals, and you haven't changed anything about it, and you are refusing to accept input from the school committee. And to me, that's unacceptable.
Would improve communications with parents, students, employees, and residents, wouldn't that fall on her go into those meetings and doing, like, just
Yeah, like-
in my eyes, I feel like that right there would
substantiated it.
Now,
So
sometimes the board gets to a point where there isn't agreement amongst the members. So at this point, I think it makes sense to have a vote, and if the majority is in favor of the goals, then we can go forward with the evaluation process.
I move with the superintendent's recommendation to do the motion.
Second,
Okay, discussion?
Dr. Earl.
Yes.
I guess this is a question to you because I've listened to your 5 goals that you spoke about, and I have 2 problems. One is that I don't see enough specificity. I can't say it. They're not specific. It's 9:30. It's late. They're not. They're neither specific nor measurable. So I'm looking at, and just to say, improve special ed or improve the West School. We need to be specific as to what that improvement is. Much like we are asking of our teachers, or the state is asking of our teachers.
SMART goals.
In that evaluation process. By the way, which they are part of a mutual agreement at reaching their own goals as well. But we need something that's specific and measurable. So you need to pick out something in West School. Is it, much like the DDMs, is it the MCAS scores that you're looking at? Is it based on some other measure that you're looking for? And what group specifically? Is it a subgroup or is it the entire student body? Because the second part of the problem I have is that it's fine to talk about what you're talking about in terms of improvement. None of us are against improvement, but the rest of your sentence in that is an indictment. It is not fact. And you may say that portions, in portions of it, you can pull out a number, but that's not the entire fact. And you can't use an editorial comment
to make a specific goal. The goal is improve the West School performance, and then let's get specific. But we could have this conversation, but short of that, it's just going into an argument, and I can't support where you're going with the wording of that. But I could talk about getting specific around these things, because quite honestly, I think a lot of the things that are already spelled out in her goals do talk specifically about. They all come from the action plans of the schools, which is where we've collected the data and where we've identified the need. So I don't, I hear your goals, I just don't get the specific or measurable portions of it.
Well, the specific, that was deliberately omitted so that to give the superintendent leeway, because this is a negotiation or a cooperation process. I say, you know, I would like to see a goal in, you know, some of these areas, and then give her the opportunity to come up with the goals and the idea. So I
will tell you that's not what I've heard ever along this process.
Look at the possible path forward.
No, but you start you start the sentence. I'm sorry.
To
let me finish my sentence. I know he did, and I'm asking about that. I'm not hearing. I first of all would curious what school of management you went to where you start indicting people and you make accusations as part.
Where's the accusation?
Because of where.
Please explain. I think that's a fair question.
Well, because, like I said, because he ends every sentence about making an improvement with a statement where things are, in his opinion, broken to this fact. It's the school's at this % of performance. That is not indicative of the whole school.
Isn't Gibbon School level 3?
A subgroup of the Gibbon, again.
Subgroup.
Yes.
Isn't the district level 3?
Yes, because by definition, the district is the level of the lowest performing subgroup level in the town. Would you take a look at all surrounding towns? Could you tell me how many level 1 schools Easton has this past year?
I want to be level 2.
I'm asking you, do you know how many level 1 schools Easton has this past year?
Who's talking
Zero.
about level 1?
I'm just saying, you can talk about these levels, but when you start making it, you're bending it to suit your
Joyce,
need to accuse people of things and to break things down.
I'm not accusing anybody. This is just data backed up with stuff.
With opinion.
And then regarding your previous comment, right here in this handout I passed last meeting, I said possible path forward. 1, school committee identifies goal topics representing high priority needs of the district students. Number 2, superintendent writes and proposes goals pertaining to selected topics. So that leaves it wide open for the superintendent. If she wants to cooperate with the process, pick any area and then write specific goals and then how to meet them. And superintendent ensures that the new proposed goals are challenging and measurable.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Yes.
Let's do this. Dr. Rizzi, please, let's get together with you, myself, Doctor, and whoever else wants to come.
Then it's an open meeting.
Oh, we can
post We're doing that now.
All right, it's an open meeting. No, she said she's right. It's an open meeting.
This is an open meeting.
It's open meeting right now.
But I'm talking about, let's get together with you, myself, Dr. Ural. Let's do it again. And let's see if we can come to some type of consensus on your goals.
I believe that there are 5 goals. They conform with the way the evaluation system has been given to us by the state. They are all related to high priority needs of the district. They all have action steps, so they're measurable. They're based on our data. There are also standards for which a great deal of evidence has to be provided. Putting individual schools in my goals is a violation of the education reform process, which gives the individual schools, the authority over individual schools to principals and school councils. So my goals are district goals. There's a motion and a second on the table. We have had various open meetings where all 5 of us have discussed this. So let's see if we can't just move on and get the evaluation
let's go through the
process
vote,
going.
Doc.
So there's still a comment.
Yeah, after that I'll make a comment.
And for the record, I am just deeply disappointed in the behavior of people who go on cable television shows and have this discussion and make all sorts of accusations. This is a public and transparent process, and this is the place for that process to play out.
Would you please clarify yourself?
I'm listening to the last two Murphy shows where either one or both of you made comments about the contract and the evaluation process.
Wow.
Like I said,
I thought we
this
already dealt
is...
didn't we already deal one issue with you?
We have nothing
Me?
else to do.
I thought so.
I'm not sure how this issue has anything to do with
Maybe
me.
I'm wrong with that, but go ahead, clarify.
What was the question? I didn't hear it.
It's not a question. I'm just saying I'm disappointed that these two gentlemen have chosen to take the public process, which is supposed to happen here,
They
public
took it
and
to another
transparent,
TV station
to
or
a- to
something?
a cable show, yeah.
They did?
Yeah.
Wow.
The only, hold it, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Let me clarify that. The only thing I clarified on that TV series was the fact of Dr. Rizzi's contract. That was the only thing that I clarified.
Well, in talking about the process by which we evaluate. But that's, I just wanted to make that comment.
So, I stand by what I said and what the handout I distributed. I think, just accepting the goals as the superintendent proposed, in my opinion, they are not challenging, they are not focused on high priority needs of the district student. And I think if we accept these, we are seriously compromising the process.
Excuse me, Dr. Erdman, can I ask a question, please? Why did you all go on TV and do that?
That was a question that was asked to me.
Oh, I don't know, so I'm
I
asking
didn't go
you.
specifically on the TV to talk about.
Okay, I'm just asking. I don't know, that's what
Well,
I'm
and
asking.
I'm answering your question.
Okay, go on. So both you all did the same thing? They asked you all the same
I
question?
don't know where she got. He wasn't on the same program I was on.
Oh, so it was two programs they did this on?
I wasn't on
Wow.
I wasn't on that program.
Okay, you are welcome to go on any TV show because you're a public figure and you can speak about anything.
answering the que- are you
And I
answering
think,
to me? Okay, can I and ask, you just made a statement, which is fine, but it runs counter to what Dr. Rizzi just said about her goals not being per state statute about specific schools, because that is the domain of the school building principal. And we have a person here who sets goals and evaluates at all levels from administration to teachers, and I would love his input, because that concerns me. You can make a motion to go ahead and say, I want to use my goals, but if they in fact violate a practice that we shouldn't be going to, I would like to hear, if indulge the chairs.
Go on,
Well,
Jonathan.
Personally, I think it would be potentially troubling if the school committee wanted the superintendent to set a specific goal for a specific school, because in the nature of ed reform, principals and their school councils are empowered to set the school improvement plan for a school and set the specific goals for improvement. So I personally wouldn't recommend the committee set a specific goal for the superintendent regarding an individual school, because her domain isn't an individual school, it's the performance of the school district in aggregate. So I think that might be a troubling goal for the superintendent to put in place, because by the nature of ed reform, the principal and school council set those goals.
Okay, a question for you, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I am interrupting you.
Sure.
I thought the superintendent had the umbrella of everything.
She
I
does.
thought she had responsibility over everything. I thought she had responsibility over whatever the MCAS scores are and whatever any other scores are. So just by that itself, it's part of her domain. Then what you're telling me, that if she's if her group is failing in one area, she has no justification to go into that area to try to make that area better?
The superintendent hires a principal.
I understand
The principal. What we're looking at right now with this school committee, and even with that question, is if you went back 30 years, school committees had all the power, and the superintendent had all the power. And they could walk into a school and do anything they wanted.
The school committee meeting? Okay. Because you
And
see, you
the-
mentioned
and the- and the
superintendent.
superintendent.
Oh, okay. Well, the superintendent always
All the
had that power.
hiring, all the firing, everything.
Okay.
In what ended up happening is, because there were so many issues involved with that, not good issues,
Abuse of power.
issues that got in the way of educating children, ed reform came about. And what they did is they took power away from the school committees, and they took power away from the superintendent, and they empowered principals in site-based management in the form of a school council to determine what an individual school needed to do in order to improve.
Okay.
And that's why schools create school improvement plans. That's why there's specific requirements in terms of the composition of a school council, where parents have at least parity with school department personnel making decisions. And that's why a lot of different things happened, so that the people that work in the school and the people that send their kids to that school can determine the route that school takes in order to improve. All right. By giving the superintendent a specific goal or asking her to create a specific school for that school, I think we're in fact violating the spirit of ed reform. By then telling the superintendent she's going to go into school and do something which she's really not empowered to do.
That's not what we are asking.
But
What
if
we
I
are
could
asking, what we are
continue-
asking
He's not
I
finished.
was
I
asked
think-
to
He's not
comment by
finished.
Ms. Husseini, and
Well, you-
I can wrap it up really quickly.
Okay.
I also think, with respect to the school committee itself, in the way that the process was talked on, the way that I understood it before, for amending the superintendent's goals, because I know you've talked about the state recommendations, but in fact, the school committee negotiated with the superintendent, and the school committee and the superintendent agreed to an evaluation process, which is not a state process, because the state process was simply modeling guidance. And in her process, a lot of things are spelled out, and I think they need to be adhered to. I also think, in the spirit of that other conversation, with making amendments to her submitted goals, it wasn't one person saying this is what I want. I always was under the impression the school committee would vote if they wanted to change a specific goal or make a recommendation. And that's not something that I've ever heard the school committee do. So I think there's a disconnect here. I think the process, by which the goals are derived are potentially in conflict, or what individuals are looking for are potentially in conflict with that reform. And I think the thing that was talked about before was if you wanted to amend a specific goal of the superintendent, it would be something that came along the lines of a consensus of the committee through a vote or something else,
Right.
as opposed to what
Ford,
any individual wanted.
You act like the advocate for the superintendent.
I'm an advocate for the
she's
process.
very capable of speaking for herself.
And
I
Dr.
think-
Earl, if I could just say
think-
briefly that I was asked to comment by a member of the
I
committee.
appreciate that, but you said you were going to wrap it up, but, so let me point out, what you said is not true. We are not trying to dictate specific goals on her. What we are trying to say is these are the topics that are important to me.
Oh, to
and
you.
then let the committee speak about the others. And then you talk about the Gibbons School being level 3. If she wants to, if she doesn't want to make I'm not going to get into debate because that's not your role.
I'm not here to debate, Doctor.
Okay.
But I believe you were addressing
So
it.
motion's on the floor.
Gibbons School is, she can be talking about setting a goal to improve special education. What we didn't set, the West School, she can be talking about improving the ESL education, improve science education in elementary school. So what we are specifically giving the topics to the superintendent and asking her to write the goals. That's all I'm doing. Okay, any other discussion from the committee?
Nope.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the goal proposed by the superintendent with the amendment that she will go to at least one PTO, PTA meeting and one informal event at each school during the evaluation cycle. Say aye.
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 So, opposed?
No.
No. So we got 3, 4, and 3 ayes and 2 noes. All right.
Well, now, hold on.
So that's
now
over with.
I realize that we took a vote. Now I need to know is, when are you going to go to wherever you're going to go to and be there to make your points or whatever? Because I would like to go there too. I would like to be present there so that I may evaluate you.
Well, there are a lot of things in the goals
I understand.
that don't involve going to PTO and PTA meetings. So if you, and we're going to have to get a lot of these in quite quickly because since the goals are now in place and it's late August, as opposed to in April when we started talking about this, we'll have to fast track the schedule. So if what you're interested in knowing is what PTO meetings I plan to attend, I'm happy to share that information with you.
When will you share it with me?
Well, since I haven't
Before
set
she
up the
goes.
schedule yet, it
Okay,
can't be
fine.
today.
PTOs haven't
I
They
understand.
have not set up their
But
schedules
she never told me,
yet.
she never said to me how she was going to do it. And I think that I have the right to know how she's going to do it. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing is when it's time for you to do this evaluation, are you going to explain to us that you did this evaluation and how you did it? Because then how can I observe how you did it?
Well, what I've done is proposed goals, and then at the end of the evaluation cycle, there's evidence to show whether the action steps have been met, and evidence to indicate the indicator and standard. So you look at the evidence, and then based on that, you do the evaluation.
So what you're saying to me is that I can't evaluate you, it's just that you're going to give me certain evidences, and with those evidences, that's going to be my evaluation. And I'm going to make a decision on that from my evaluation.
You'll decide if the goals have been met, and that if the standards the indicators have been met to the standard of the rubric as to whether or not those things have been met. That's for you to determine based on the evidence.
Okay, now how are we going to, as the year is progressing, how are we going to be evaluating her? Because that's one of the things that we can do.
All right, you can ask the 3 committee members, because I don't like these goals. You can ask the 3 committee members who voted for them.
We can sit down, Mr. Swords, and talk about it.
Thank you. I would like to. You and I, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we
because
can.
we can't do it a third one.
Oh, that's right.
Because we'll break the open meeting law.
So I can do what she did, was give you her evaluation process is the same one that we use, and show you how we derived at that, and that this in fact is true. But as far as you all doing this together, as far as the meeting, that's you too.
No,
I'll sit down with you.
No, you're talking about derivation. You're talking about how you derived it with her to get her goals. I'm talking about how her goals are actually being met, and we're supposed to be looking at those, whether it's monthly or whatever the case is, and what basically she's doing to make these things
We can do that.
fulfilled.
We can do that.
All right, moving right along. Item number 11, dissemination of current SPS policy manual. So I had asked that they be put on the website, and Mr. Ford said they were about to be put on. Are they on?
They've been on since the point at which we emailed them to all you. We put it up on the website.
How would because I looked for it, I couldn't find it.
I actually looked
It's
up
under
whether our
committee.
It's under school committee.
Because it's your policies.
Committee policies.
One up right here.
What does it come under school committee? Just,
I'll pull it up right now.
no, but what does it come under?
I would have to look.
If you go on the school district's website,
Yeah.
and then you look at the various choices across the menu bar, and there's a section that says committee, and when you click on it, you get a drop-down menu, and one of the things in the drop-down menu is policy.
Do you remember when they were
And it's
first
been
asked
there
me-
for some time.
When that happened, I sent them to the tech department, and they posted them under your website. I mean, I verified the fact in our last meeting that they were there.
Right.
So,
And then the town moderator, remember we had him here, and then we said the policies listed on the town code are obsolete. We got a new set of policies, and he requested that we give a hard copy to town clerk's office.
Has that been done?
So he was asking me if it has been done. I said, I don't know. I probably doubt it.
I didn't remember that he
Would we,
requested that, but we have plenty of, we can.
I do
We just
remember
have
that.
it's like a set delivered to town clerk's office, and then if you send me an email, I will send it to Howard.
Well, that's
Under,
committee on the policies.
what gets me to committee?
Yeah, we'll just copy it.
Thank
Oh,
you.
okay, okay. Stoughton School.
Okay. The next item is number 12, new policy manual development. And that was, it's not in this packet, but the previous packet, we received a quote Mr. Ford got from MASC. And that was $10,500 to be paid over 3 years. And I think superintendent recommended, you recommend that we approve that, right?
Yes, and you wanted to know if there was $3,500 to do it.
Yes, was there?
Yes.
So superintendent has made a recommendation. Is there a motion to authorize them to
I make a motion to authorize them to pay the
get the
Dual of
new policy
MASC
development started?
membership.
No, that's not what
We're not talking about the renewal of the membership yet. We're talking about the development
new
of the policy manual, which is a cost over and above membership. And as was discussed the last time, it's a 3-year process. They're very experienced. It takes a while to do an entire policy manual. So a third of a $10,000 3-year expense is approximately $3,500. And I was requested to find out if, in fact, that is something that could be done this year. It can. That is different from number 13 on the agenda, which
No,
is
no.
renewal of the
I
MASC
understand,
membership.
Doctor. I made a mistake, and I apologize for that.
Oh.
Okay.
Effusive.
So did we have a motion and a second?
I made the motion.
No, we just move the superintendent. Can I move the superintendent's recommendation?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Next one is renewal of MASC membership.
Well, I will comment on this. The MASC membership for the last several years has been put in the budget, so you voted it into this budget. Therefore, the membership has been renewed because when you vote something into a budget, we then execute it. If you choose to rescind your membership, we would have to look into whether that's a process that you could do. And then you will have a new decision to make this budget cycle whether or not you want to continue the MASC membership in the fiscal year 16.
Well, I asked this, I put this on the agenda because I noticed the payment of invoice and the warrant, bill warrants. And previous year, except last year, previous years, the school committee always voted whether to renew membership or not. So I like to continue with that tradition. Ask the school committee, even though you budgeted, ask the school committee if they want to renew it or not.
And in fact, I didn't budget it. You as a committee budgeted it. So that is a decision to go forward with membership, and it's voted as part of that process.
Well, as I said, in previous years, we always voted to renew the process or not. And the superintendent's recommendation, is it to renew the MASC membership?
The membership
would be
has
our
already
membership.
been renewed.
It's our membership, not
And
the
it's not mine,
superintendent's.
right.
Yeah.
The membership has been renewed, and the agreement to renew it was part of the budget process. So
It's done.
So are we to
No,
remove?
it's not gone. We stopped the warrants.
You stopped the warrant.
First of all, I don't have a recollection of us voting to renew the membership. I have a recollection of the discussion on the value of the MASC membership to us, which has always turned out to be affirmative. If, in fact, we voted on something that was already voted as part of the budget, I think maybe now's the time to stop the precedent for double voting something, if, in fact, that had been.
I will think I can interject one piece of history. In 2008 and 9, the worst of the recession years, it may have been, I believe was the case, that at least one of those years, the school committee chose not to be a member of MASC because we were pinching every single penny from everywhere that didn't relate to direct service. After the worst of that budget crisis passed, then the committee reverted to its usual practice of being a member of the MASC. So there would have been a time, perhaps a year or two, I can't remember which, it's 08 and 09 or one or the other, where you may have chosen not to be. But that's my recollection of.
Well, my purpose in putting this here is not to cancel the membership.
Okay.
My purpose is this is school committee's budget. This is school committee's expenditure. So why don't we have the school committee have an affirmative vote on it? So I don't know, why you would renew it, because the invoice said October 1st, I think.
Can I ask how that differs, though, from us actually voting the budget, which is, in fact, voting to spend money specifically for the MASC membership?
Well, when did we vote for the budget? That was in December?
December.
The school committee has changed.
But we stand by the vote of the school committee even after the members change. we don't retake all the votes on the docket just because there are new members.
No, I mean, if there is something you don't agree, then you run for the school committee, and then you try to make changes.
Are you having a discussion about the value of the MASC membership while we're actually
I'm not.
contracting with the MASC to do our policy manual?
I'm just saying, why do you take away that vote from the school committee when it's the school committee's budget?
Because I believe
and
we actually
school committee's expenditure.
and you can go ahead. I will actually not vote on that because I believe we've already voted it, not in opposition of it, but I don't believe it's a valid vote because it's something that's already been done. But my opinion.
Well, in that sense, everything is budgeted, so why do we have these bill warrants? I mean, that's faulty logic.
That's to verify that we in fact are spending the money on what we voted in the budget.
Right, it's not, the purpose of the warrants is not to change the budget.
So we've already voted on what you're saying is 2014, 2015. So now what do we need, another 2015, 2016?
No.
When the
Budget process,
when the budget process starts, which is very soon now, in October, then you will decide if your MASC membership for the following year will go into the new budget as it is developed.
Now, with the same logic, let's say we just approved these school repair projects, and we have allocated money in the budget for repairing schools.
Actually,
so
those are articles.
Why don't we have Mr. Harding come here and take our votes?
Those are bids. You have to accept bids. That's one of the school committee's
So this is the
responsibilities.
same thing. There is a invoice has been sent, and then we have the school committee take a vote on it.
But the MASC membership isn't a public bid process where the price can vary. A crack repair and
No,
sealing
I understand what the doctor's trying to say. He's trying to say that there's a process that should be adhered to, that's all. And that's what he's questioning.
And public procurement is different than memberships and other incidentals that are budgeted.
Okay, but obviously, I'm not sure you understand what he's...
Oh, I understand clearly.
Oh, you
and
do?
Do not tell me what I understand, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you.
I'm sorry.
Dr. Brown.
Sure. So I have a question, Dr. Rizzi. So although we already know we have this for the new membership, what kind of sense would it be for us to renege on that when we just voted in $3,500 to have the same organization do our policy?
Well, there's a lot of value in being part of MASC, period, including the fact that you could take advantage of this price for this policy manual.
I agree.
But the Mass Association of School Committees does a great deal of work for the legislature. They have a very important conference in November. They do training on school committee practices and policies. It's a professional organization to which all school committees belong if they can afford it. I mean, obviously there were a couple of bad years a few years ago. So I can't see a reason to revoke the membership.
Thank you.
I don't think anybody is asking to revoke the membership.
No.
There has been a tradition of every year voting to renew the membership, so that's what I put it in here, so we take the same vote this year. If you guys don't want to vote on it, that's fine by me.
Okay, can we go to the next one then?
Oh, is there a motion to renew the MASC membership?
Yes, I would like to... No, I'm a little confused here.
Yeah.
Somebody's saying it's already been voted on.
Yeah.
Now, is that true or is that not true?
Well, she's saying since the budget was approved, since this was in the budget, it's automatic approval.
Not just the budget was approved, since the budget was voted by this body that contained that line item with that specific membership.
Last October?
Last December.
Last December.
A vote's a vote, but no matter when it was taken.
The year has not
I
expired
thought I heard
yet.
you say that it was already voted on.
Yes.
It was.
Well, then that was my
It
question.
wasn't.
When was it voted on?
Last
You said December.
Yes.
That's all I'm trying to do is find out when it was voted on.
So you made a motion, Joe?
To do what? I'm confused.
To renew the membership.
They done.
The one that they already made a motion on in December?
Yeah.
No, in December, there was no motion on this. That was included as a part of the budget.
All right.
A lot of things were included as a part of the budget. Some of them we spent, some of them we don't spend.
Okay, I make a motion.
That is not customary at all.
No.
When the budget is voted, it is then the obligation of the administration to spend the budget as voted. To begin to take the budget apart once the fiscal year has begun would be highly unusual, extremely unprecedented, and would have a very significant impact on the running of the school district and also the credibility of this body
School committee, exactly.
as the budget that was put forward to the town was the budget that the committee and the administration have committed to spend. So that's a very, very unusual potential process fraught with a great deal of problems if that is the way the committee intends to go about spending this year's budget.
Okay, I have a question.
Wait, before you say that, let me address that. Last year, we returned $52,000 of the budget that was allocated for administration. We returned to the town $207,000 of the money that was allocated for instruction. We returned $7,700 for other school services that was allocated. We returned $111,000 of maintenance money that was in the budget. We didn't spend it, we returned it. Fixed charges, we returned $80,600. Special education, we returned $268,000. And transportation, we returned $53,000.
What does that have to do
So
with this?
just because something is in the budget, and I think you are misconstruing my motive here. I'm trying to get it. I would like us to be a member of MASC. I agree that we get a good value out of it. All I am trying to do is get a vote so that we affirm that we still want to be a member, and that has been the tradition. And last year it was taken out of the school committee. And this year, I'm trying to get back into the tradition. That's all.
Now, does anybody see anything faulty with that?
I do.
I do. It's already there.
It's like I said, it's when something's been voted, I don't understand what the process is.
Are you trying to say that because it's school committee money, the school committee should vote on it? Is that what you're
But
saying?
we already did.
We already did it.
No, you voted on the budget. You didn't
With
vote on
specific-
the specific items.
I voted on all the specific items. Some of the items are fixed charges. Some of those, some of the things that you refer to are flexible, like utilities.
There
You
was-
can't predict. We budget for certain items, and yes, things are returned. We budget for.
We spend a lot of time on this.
We are for procurement items at a certain level, and we spend less because the bids come in lower. This is one of those items that's fixed. We voted on the line items of the budget. The time to have that discussion was during the budget. And that will come up again this December when we will go through the budget line by line.
Then we can argue then.
So why don't we have a motion? Is there a second?
No.
No, I'll second it. If
So
it will
there is a
get it, if
second.
it will get it moving on.
All in favor of renewing the MASC membership?
did it.
Say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm abstaining based on the
Okay.
I'm
reasons I
also
gave.
abstaining.
So we got 3 in favor
Motion
and
passes.
2 abstaining.
It passed a year ago.
All right,
You got your vote.
that's good.
13? We did that, number 14.
14, renewal of the minutes.
Acceptance of the minute? May I have something wrong?
I'm sorry?
Is it acceptance of the minutes or renewal?
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
Okay. Thought I had something wrong.
Talk too much about renewal. Okay. Mary, I sent you an email about the April 16 minutes. Did you?
Today, I didn't see an email.
I don't believe you.
Well, it may have been because I haven't received anything back after 4:30 something. I think it may be my server.
Maybe I didn't see it before I went home.
I just couldn't. I sent you. I couldn't find the April 16 minutes in my packet, and
April 29th.
April 16.
Oh, I thought it was April 29th.
I'm just talking about something.
Oh.
April 16.
Oh,
They were. So I look at my packet from last month, and I couldn't find it. Do you guys have it?
I didn't bring it.
Do you have it, Joe?
April 16th?
Yeah.
No, I never got April 16th. Were we supposed to?
So why don't we skip that one? Start with
I would like to ask a question.
Yes.
We have a May, oops, I'm sorry, that's there. Hold on a second. May 14th. Nope, never mind, forget my question.
Okay, so I'm going to do these one by one. April 29 meeting minutes.
Yeah, but see, I don't see April 29th here.
That's the first
April 16th. Oh, I'm sorry. April 20, I apologize.
I had one correction. It's the to do with, so we are looking at the April 29th meeting.
Okay.
We are looking school committee reorganization after the first paragraph. At that time, I asked the committee if any member wishes to repeat the committee reorganization vote, which was done on April 16th. And no school committee member expressed interest. No motion was made.
I didn't hear what, I didn't hear what you said.
I would like to amend that.
Oh, I'm sorry, where did?
I didn't hear you.
Where is it in there?
It's going school committee reorganization after the first paragraph.
Between the first and second paragraph?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for a review on that. I do not believe that is what was said.
Okay, so that's fair enough. So,
So these are on hold?
Yeah.
so
Table. I motion to table the meeting minutes for April 29th.
okay.
That was a motion.
Oh, I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, next one is, so April 16, I don't have it.
I don't have April 16th either. Okay.
So that's also, we'll do it next meeting. May 5th, any corrections, revisions, improvements on May 5th?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. May 7. Any,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. May 12.
Motion to approve.
Going too fast for me.
Okay, let's
I
wait.
second.
Let's wait for Mr. Soros to catch up.
Sorry, I'm looking for May 2nd.
After we second it, we can open it for discussion.
Just wondering where
Which
the-
one?
May 12th.
May 7th and then May 12th.
May
May
12th.
12th. May 12th. Ah, okay, I have it here. And that was approved, right?
That was no motion and second.
Okay.
So do you have any corrections?
No, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. May 14.
Motion to approve with one typo in the, under other matters. It says union will do it, instead of it's IT6.
Ah,
Sorry, I didn't.
I was.
It's also,
What's
Oh, that's
IT?
the one that's the one that's in the package, sorry.
A little sticky
So
on it.
motion
Oh,
as,
yes.
as corrected.
I agree, because
we
that was my
also-
question.
that 140 is incorrect. I think it was 167 or 160. It was never
Let me see
140.
now. It was also put that the union will verify this was his number there. Yes, I think you're right, Doctor. Once it was 160 or,
It was,
Would you like to-
originally it was 167, but the teachers claimed, and then Dr. Rizzi corrected it to 160. So it was never 140.
Can we table these to go back to the notes on them?
We can
Sure.
do that, or, just do it 160.
But that's, I don't have that memory of the exact number, and I don't, sorry, I would really rather that
Okay.
we refer to the notes.
So motion, I'm looking for a motion to table May 14.
Motion to table May 14th.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? May 19th.
Motion to approve May 19.
I have one revision. This is kind of minor. May 19th, the second line from the bottom.
Second line from the bottom. Dr. Brown was driving around Boston?
No, Dr. Ural,
was?
no, on the first page.
And what was that driving around Boston?
Go ahead.
Dr. Ural officially canceled the meeting.
Okay.
I think it was the consensus. I like to say it. The consensus was to cancel the May 20 meeting.
But the chair makes the decision to cancel the meeting. The board didn't take a vote on it, so you,
Okay, maybe it's done. You want to say will officially cancel the meeting.
will officially?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
See here, it says
Dr. Ural
Okay.
officially canceled the meeting.
because this is talking about cancel. When you say canceled, it's the past tense.
Right.
So this should be future tense.
Well,
Will.
okay. I'll
Dr.
let
Ural officially will cancel the meeting?
Dr. Ural officially,
Or Dr. Ural will cancel the meeting?
we'll let the, we'll
Yeah,
let our
we'll
our
cancel the
grammatical.
meeting.
Can I just say something about Dr. Brown riding around on it? I don't know anything about this.
Well, it's
I
in
don't
the
gen-
minutes.
I don't generally ride around.
You want to amend that?
Yes, please. It's a credibility issue here.
So wait a minute. Let's do.
Want to
We're
table
not
that?
talking about these.
Let's not ignore that.
So May 19th, we got a revision. And so do we have a motion to accept as amended?
It was a motion to accept as amended.
Second.
All in
Just
favor?
a- Excuse me, I have something to say about that. We're going to take this Dr. Brown riding around the Boston out, correct?
Is that in the same minutes?
It's
Where-
different. It's
Second page.
different.
Oh,
Okay, wherever that set needs to go.
okay.
Mary, do you know where that's at so I can make sure this is taken care of
It's
tonight?
on the second line, on the second page, the
And wh-
bottom line.
And what was the date? I'm sorry, Mr. Soros.
What was the
It's a
date?
different set of minutes.
This is May 19th.
Okay, man, so could you take that out of there? That's just so
That's not May
disrespectful.
19th. That's,
No, May 19th doesn't have 2 pages.
that's the executive session.
Oh, what do I have two of them here, special meeting? Monday, May 9th. These
that's the
both say
exec-
May 19th.
One's
One's
executive
executive
session.
Ah.
We cannot discuss executive
All
session
right.
We'll
here.
talk about that later then.
Okay.
So the
So for the, I'm just.
Okay, so
As
we have a
amended.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Okay, this one is approved.
So next one is May 21.
Move to approve, accept.
Is there a second?
May 21, second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Now, wait a minute, wasn't this executive session too? I get two of them. Okay, so we have an executive session on the second page. Is that correct?
Joyce, help him out.
Or nobody knows that, huh? Okay, so I've got,
There's an executive session on May 21st also.
right. But we're only talking about the
Special meeting.
special meeting. Okay. Now, where are we?
So
May 28th.
May 28th.
Okay. I second it, I guess.
Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the May 28th meeting.
Then Joe seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And the last one is June 26th.
Motion to accept meeting minutes of June 26th.
Is there a second?
Hold on, I'm not getting there.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That was easy.
Really?
What was that, June 26th?
June 26th.
June 26th. Oh.
So what we'll do is April 16. We'll do next time. What was the other ones?
That was
May
really good
14?
point, though. I agree with
April 29th.
So we're going to get another copy of that, is correct, Mary?
April 29th, and then there was a May 14, I think. May 14.
That is about 140, right?
Yeah. All right. Item number 15, correspondence.
I have some, I think you do too.
I have one, but I thought we might be talking about it in executive session, so I didn't know if it,
I don't think the letter is the topic of executive session.
okay.
Correct. It's to the committee and to me, so you could read it or I could.
Go right ahead, Dr. Rizzo.
This
Taking
is,
a siesta.
You read so much better.
oh, I think she does a great dramatic reading.
And you're
She does
sweet.
too.
This is a letter to the honorable members of the Stoughton School Committee and Superintendent, Dr. Marguerite Rizzi, dated August 20th, 2014. And it is from Barbara Ann Zavino, who is the chair of the Education Subcommittee of the Committee on Finance and Taxation, otherwise known as FinCom. This is a formal request for a copy of the minutes from the executive sessions held in 2014 pertaining to the teacher's contract. Since the contract has been settled since June, I believe their disclosure will no longer defeat the purpose of the executive session. Please let me know when the copies are ready. I can be reached by phone at or email at. Below is the pertinent part of the Attorney General's Open Meeting Law Guide regarding executive session meeting records. And that reads, public bodies are not required to disclose the minutes, notes, or other materials used in an executive session where the disclosure of these records may defeat the lawful purpose of the executive session. Once disclosure would no longer defeat the purposes of the executive session, minutes and other records from that executive session must be disclosed unless they are within an exemption to the public records law or the attorney-client privilege applies. The public body is also required to periodically review the executive session minutes to determine whether continued non-disclosure is warranted, and such determination must be included in the minutes of the body's next meeting. A public body must respond to a request to inspect or copy executive session minutes within 10 days of request and promptly release the records if they are subject to disclosure. If the body has not performed a review to determine whether they are subject to disclosure, it must do so prior to its next meeting or within 30 days, whichever is sooner. Regards, Barbara Ann Zavino, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, excuse me, I may apologize, but what date is she referring to?
It's referring to all.
Anything in 2014, I believe. Until
Okay, so let's read it again. This is a formal request for a copy of the minutes from the executive sessions held in 2014 pertaining to the teacher's contract.
Pertaining to the
Yeah, but
teachers'
wasn't the contract going on for 15 months or something?
So I believe she's asking for everything in the calendar year of 2014 that was related to the teacher's contract. So it is actually possible. So what we'd have to do is look at the agendas and see in the year 2014 on what agendas that item was listed.
Yeah, why would she be selective? Why wouldn't she want the whole thing?
Well, she's asking for the executive session held in 2014 pertaining to the teacher's contract.
No, I understand that.
If we'd
Why-
like to give her more of that, I'm sure that would be acceptable.
No, but my point is, why is she being very selective? Why doesn't she want all of it?
Are you asking her
I
to
don't
judge
know,
why?
since I have not spoken with the honorable lady, only got this in the mail.
Let me just make this clear.
So-
That's my question. It's not a question to you.
Oh, it looks like you were asking me.
Sorry, it's just my question. And I'm not expecting anybody here to answer that. It's just that I happen to verbalize my question outwardly so everybody could hear it. It just doesn't make sense to me why she would only want a certain portion and not all of it. That's all. That's my question.
It appeared to be directed to me, but I'm glad it isn't since I can't speak for her.
And I never expected you to do that, Doctor.
It's a lot of reading.
Yeah, it's all law. I didn't realize it was all.
Email from the school committee attorney regarding this?
I did get an email. He talked about
Getting the Word
checking,
files?
looking
Yeah.
to see if there were other information that may be in it that, because there could be, other than that, might have not been the only
Right.
subject for discussion in those minutes,
So he asked
So I,
to send them the Word files. And
fine, I was just waiting till.
but the other thing, that we don't have you haven't done all these. Some of the meetings you skipped.
Right. There are 5 specials that are done. They just haven't got to you yet, but there are still 3 more to do.
And then some regulars too.
And there's a couple of regulars.
So
God
I
bless
don't
you.
know. maybe we should ask Ms. Anzavino if she wants to look at your notes, or maybe we just get get started. Why don't you send the attorney what you have?
Why don't we wait till after we vote this current stack in executive session, then we'll have,
Yeah.
we may have amendments that we need to make, so, and not that I do, but.
Isn't there a time limit? Didn't
Yeah,
I read
there's
there's a?
I think you have to respond in 10 days, but.
Oh, okay, we don't have to give them.
Any other correspondence?
I didn't receive any.
I received one. It says, this comes from Mrs. Bronson. Remember she came here talking about several issues. She sent it to me August 18. So she came up with a proposed policy on says school committee policy pertaining to student data collection. So I'll circulate this at the next meeting and see if the committee would like to accept it, work on it, or reject it. And then the other part is she would like the school committee and the Board of Selectmen to have a joint meeting to discuss these issues. So she went to the Board of Selectmen meeting and saying that school committee needs your advice. I mean, we didn't really need their advice, but we said since some of the issues are pertaining to federal and state laws, we really don't have any authority to work on these. So you may want to, if you want to get a resolution with the selectmen, we can talk about doing a resolution. But so that's the I wanted to bring to your attention. If anybody wants a copy of this, I'll be happy to pass it along.
Yeah, I would like a copy of it.
And then I will also put her proposed policy on the agenda for the next meeting. Any other correspondence? Other matters?
I have
Other
one.
matters?
I have one.
Yes, please.
The new school year will be starting shortly.
I'm sorry, the what?
The new school year. And so we're probably going to have an uptick in the amount of traffic that we have in our office. As when people come back to school, we tend to have a lot more visitors. The superintendent's office was the last office in the district that was not in any way, there was no restriction on accessibility to anyone. The doors were unlocked and unmonitored electronically. We have now changed that, so a system has been instituted where you have to ring a bell, verbally correspond with someone in the office, and be allowed in to the office. So people who are used to just walking in, as they have done for generations, will find that that's new. But it was the last area of our buildings in which that kind of, at least that kind of security wasn't in place and now is in place. So for some people, when they see it the first time, I just don't want them to be surprised. But now all access to all of our buildings is at least monitored by a system whereby people get to make a choice whether or not someone is allowed into the building.
Just to tell you how well trained you have trained me. Today I went up to the door, I went over to press the buzzer, and when I went over to press the buzzer, Katie went open the door on the left-hand side. I said, wait a minute, that's not how it's supposed to work.
That was you?
That was me.
No, that Katie?
Yeah.
Katie.
Oh, so you were coming out as Mr. Soares was going in?
No, I was coming up the stairs to go in. The two doors are locked. I went over and pressed the button. and Katie went over to my right. I'm sorry, not my left,
During
my
the
right.
period of time when the building is open for a public meeting, the doors will be unlocked as they have been because we are required to have the building open for a public meeting. In which case, you now will enter on the doors on the right.
I must have been on the short list. I didn't get that.
Me neither.
So what do we do
Already signed
if there is like a concert or do we put a security guard in?
There generally is someone there, but when the building is open to the public for an event, that's different. I'm talking about during the workday.
Security
So
issues.
speaking of new teachers, how many new teachers we have this year?
Were we speaking of new teachers?
No.
Yeah, you said the new school year beginning and the new teachers are coming in.
I'm not sure. I'd have to check on the list and see how many actual new faculty we have this year.
Would you let us know by email?
Sure.
Thank you.
Can I have one question?
Yes.
It's a very long meeting, but there were a number of items on this agenda, the 6 that I counted, and it's very unsettling when you get a packet and there's really no material that goes with the packet, and some of the things are vague. So, you know, and much of them good, the pet responsibility on school grounds. I know that the information wasn't available ahead, but didn't know if I was going to look for a policy on service animals or whatever. Just even a little blurb saying, not necessarily in the agenda, but in the packet, saying this is, you know, somebody coming to present on their concerns on, you know, dogs on public spaces. Because this has been a very confusing agenda, and like I said, 6 of the items I had no clue. And when I actually called the superintendent to ask on some of them, she didn't know, and I thought the agreement was that you're going to work on the agenda or have your vice chair work on the agenda with the superintendent. And
the vice chair was on vacation.
That's my fault, Joyce. I've been up in Maine, and it was my fault about the pet. He asked me how I wanted to adjust it because I got the email and I just put it out there.
But, I mean, I think it helps at least for a little letter to go with it that
It
drafts.
also helps, like, you know,
Yeah.
you can call me anytime, and
Well, I try not to
superintendent can call me
deliberate outside of
anytime.
school committee.
It's not deliberation,
I
it's just
understand.
getting, I mean, I used to call you when you were chair, and also the open meeting law requires all the items that the chair anticipates that will be discussed. So some items may be listed but not discussed.
I understand that, but like I said, when the ability to at least, or maybe define it a little bit more clearly, that you're talking about, you know, instead of pets, about dogs in playgrounds and something, so that we understand what it is.
Are you afraid to call Dr. Euro?
I'm not sure what that question has to do with anything.
What was the question? I didn't hear it.
Call Dr. Euro and find out.
I also have the right to call the superintendent.
You certainly do.
Okay, so we are, I guess we are going to go into executive session for the purposes of negotiation strategy
You can be here all night.
regarding, I'm sorry?
I was just giving something to this gentleman here.
That me?
We are going into executive session for the purposes of negotiation strategy regarding proposed fiscal 15 Unit B positions, settlement agreement to permit STA to speak at the school committee meetings, school security, and release of the executive session minutes if the committee so desires, and acceptance of minutes for April 29, executive session minutes, May 5th, May 7th, May 19th, May 21st, May 28th, and June 26th. So is there a motion to go into executive session?
I make a motion to go to an executive session.
Is there a second?
I second.
Roll call, Mr. Spain.
Yes.
Mr. Soul.
Yes.
Ms. Enochian.
Yes.
Dr. Brown.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. So the financial warrants will be circulated. Our next regular meeting is September 9, 2014.
Call Miss Mrs.